your children are turned into mindless vassals who now they look up to some twit instead of looking up to Thomas Jefferson or looking up to Nikola Tesla or looking up to Magellan. I mean, kids, Magellan's a lot cooler than Justin Bieber. He circumnavigated with one ship the entire planet. He was killed by wild natives before they got back to Portugal. And when they got back, there was only...
But why? $22 million in 3 fucking hours!
There is no nobility in poverty. I have been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I choose rich every fucking time. The real question is this: was all this legal? Absolutely fucking not.
Neither go towards the feeding grounds at the edge of the ice, nor return to the colony. Shortly afterwards, we saw him heading straight towards the mountains, some 70 kilometers away. Dr. Ainley explained that even if he caught him and brought him back to the colony, he would immediately head right back for the mountains. But why?
What's your dream? To go away.
To go away. That's great.
You guys want to drink? I don't understand why everybody has to be so judgmental. I understand why mom's judgmental. I think it's because she cares partially. I think it's also partially because everyone else is looking at her like, hey, Cody's just a bum. Cody's this, Cody's that, Cody's this. Cody's me, bro. Let me be me.
Let's go. GM 40 young rich brothers in here. Chill, how we doing, buddy? It is Thursday. We got a banger lineup today. 10 minutes till we got Amrish coming on, so you got to riff through some stuff quick.
GM, what's up, guys? What's up? Yo, it's dude, I don't know. Are you watching the playoffs right now? Are you watching the playoffs?
Dude, no, not as close as I should be. I heard last night was crazy though.
A freaking banger, bro.
I saw Wemby got egged on the way after the game. Someone just egged him in the head.
Are you serious?
Yeah, bro, he got pissed off.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that at all. But no, absolutely amazing game. We had a ton of people like there. I mean, stars, even like some crypto folks were there. I saw Trader Main was out there. little somebody to represent the industry.
Yeah, stepping out, baby. Let's go. Trader Main's like one of the few crypto guys that actually still has it like that, bro. Was he courtside?
It wasn't courtside, but it was pretty close. It was pretty close to courtside.
That's that Kraken money, dude. That's that top. Was it Top Step? He's got Top Step Kraken. He's got the Kraken sponsorship and then his own like prop firm or something.
Breakout, bro. I'm on Breakout, dude. I actually use Breakout. I'm not gonna lie. It literally forces you to become a better trader, better risk management, and literally I think the prop firm idea, especially like in the way that he's building it, I think that's actually it's actually a really, really good thing for crypto traders. You get to basically trade with more money for less. You're putting less capital at risk to manage a much
What's
bigger portfolio.
what's the gig here? Is it like you pay a couple $100 a month to have $100,000 account or something, or is it like you pass a challenge and you get $100,000 account? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean that's all it is. You basically pay for an eval. The eval could be like, $80, $150, whatever, depending on like what size account you want to get. There's like 5, 10, 20K. There's 100K. There's two up to 200K. Um, so yeah, you pay for the eval. You make a couple thousand in profit. Maybe for if you're at like 25,000, you make like 28,000. So a couple thousand in profit. You pass the eval. You do like a KYC check, and now you get access to a fully funded account. And there's literally no limits to how much you can withdraw. There's like, like I'm not sponsored by them at all, guys.
And they
I'm
do a
just
little
like
profit
literally.
split at the end or something like 80-20 or.
Yeah, so it's 80-20, but it is you can get up to 90% though, depending. So
I'll tell you one thing about these prop firms that you got to be careful of is they are literally trading against you. So any of the
yep,
orders you put through, they're putting you on a B book, right? So you have two sets of traders. You have A book traders and B book traders. A book traders are, the really good traders are actually pushing your orders through. Very few people are on the A book. Most of these prop firms have no A book whatsoever, actually. And then the vast majority is just traders going on the B book because they know these traders are going to lose. So how they make money is one, through challenges, because everyone's going to take these challenges and fail for the most part. And then B, they B book you and just trade literally, or they just don't put through put in your trades or they hedge against them. So that's how that works most of the time. But so sometimes like I've seen a lot of issues of people getting payouts and they try to find any way to reject it. Like, hey, you violated this rule or something. But nonetheless.
yeah, yeah. I guess that's like the lore of his trading, his like prop firm. Like he kind of like understands that the prop firm industry and like where all these specific rules that lead to traders not doing well or leading to a bad like user experience, and he basically quote unquote fixes it with his prop firm. So that's why I guess it's been doing well, and I guess that's why they got acquired by Kraken or whatever. But yeah, no, legit product. I would definitely say legit product.
Interesting. A little lore back in the day, like 2020s, I traded about $500,000 between a couple prop firms. So that was like my shtick for a while. But
No
so a
way, no
little bit
way.
of lore there, yeah.
You guys, I don't know if you guys realize this. Dom has a much more formal trading background than I. Like I'm like, I'm just this retail guy that kind of came in and just learned over years and years of mistakes. But like Dom has had like he's traded on the traditional side for like some firms or whatever. Like this guy is
Give me too much credit, man. I'll tell you that much. I wouldn't copy trade me if I was you, that's for sure.
bro. I got a question for you. There's this confessions account. I don't know if you've seen it. And this is the last we got. I'll give you guys a lowdown on what we're doing here today on the stream and all that good stuff. But just a little something. I wanted to so this confessions account. Oh my gosh, the stories that's on this thing.
So funny. Do you believe these stories though? That's the thing. Like I have a hard time believing all this stuff. They're hilarious.
Absolutely. It's like I saw like another one where a guy said, he won. He was up like 500K, and like he's like now like absolutely like in the negative. He's like asking his family for money and crap. This guy, he says, I got into crypto in 2017, invested 1,000. He invested a lot more. Was able to pay off some debt. And he said during the 2021 bull run, he grew his portfolio from 200,000, or it grew to over 200,000 from about 6 to 7,000 invested. In the country he lives in, that's a lifetime's worth of money. But with all the bullish hype around me, I lost sense of reality. I didn't sell until the market started to drop. By the time I realized it was a bear market, the portfolio was only worth 20K.
One of us, bro.
Jeez, holy crap. Look, I completely understand. I completely understand,
Almost hits too close to home, huh?
yeah, literally. But guys, so here's the outline for today. We have our first interview coming up at 12 o'clock. Actually, let me just do this. Let me just go to the MCG account real quick, and I'll pull up the schedule for today, because we have to do our normal housekeeping, right? There's 109 people in here watching the stream now. Let's do some housekeeping. So first off, you're going to go to MCG at MCG Live. There's 115 of us. Let's all take a moment.
Okay.
I'll take a moment. At MCG Live, you want to make sure you're following the account. Appreciate you guys for helping us to get to almost 11K followers. You're going to scroll down, and we'll pin the tweet here in a second. But you're going to scroll down, and you're going to go to this tweet that says today on MCG. And this is the stream. As you can see, it's live. You're going to want to do two things. Hit like, hit RT, and then throw a comment in there. You know what I mean? Throw a comment in there.
Chill is so handsome, looking so handsome today.
I would like that, actually. I'd love that. Bam. So go ahead and do that. Let's all do that real quick. Just take a moment, go to the MCG account, bang, or and yeah, just go ahead and hit like, retweet. And so here's this the breakdown for today. Where did that go? Here it is. Okay, it got pinned. So at 12 o'clock, we have Karma coming up. Karma actually has some really nice metrics. So we're going to dig into that. They seem pretty low cap, so it could potentially be like an undervalued type of setup. So we'll dig into the metrics, the updates that they have there, because they've gone beyond just a neobank from what I understand. It's now become this sort of like everything app. So definitely interested to see what's going on there. 12:30, we have Prism. Dude, Prism is going to be so fun to look into. They built a really good community. They have, from what I understand from everyone that talks about Prism, it's truly innovative. I think it's basically like where you can put tokens can represent indices of the market, something like that. So there's but excited to dig into that. That's going to be another huge conversation. And then lastly, we have LFI on LeanFi. And you guys remember from a few weeks ago on one of our trader radios, we talked about LeanFi. And basically, LeanFi is they use liens on properties to kind of like generate yield for users and token holders. So it's a really cracked founder from what I understand as well. He's had like 20 years of experience in the sector. So excited to dig in with them there at LeanFi. So that's the schedule for today. After our last interview, I'll then go through some of our normal show stuff, like macro segment. We'll cover some on-chain stuff, some majors, and then I'll catch you guys up with what's happening with the latest on-chain. So that's the breakdown of the show here today. We have our first interview coming up now, actually, with Karma Wallet. So if you're ready, Dom, I'm ready to kick her off.
Let's do it. Some lore here, guys. Of course, Amrish is our boy. Known him for a long time. Saw him in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, actually, for the Meteora event and Breakpoint up there. It was great meeting him. Back then, this is a project that was birthed out of the early inklings of ICM about a year ago, back when Believe was really a thing and ICM was in its fledgling state. This is before we saw pre-IPO companies come on chain, a lot of people innovating on the equity side. And so these conversations were just getting started. And of course, Amrish came around, originally actually had a completely different product, ended up pivoting to neobanking. And I think a bit of a pivot at this point too, to like Chill said, more of an everything app. So kind of going to get the scoop here. We're really interested to get the update again. Looks like the monthly all-time highs in volume has been hit of 522,000. So interesting to see how the token kind of ties into these economics and whatnot. So excited for it. Shout out Ripper, who was pushing us to get Amrish back on. Shout out Amrish, of course, for doing the same. So without further ado, let's get the man, the myth, the legend himself. Amrish, thanks for coming back on the show.
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. How are you feeling?
I'm doing good. I mean, it's bare, it's been a rough time for everyone, I think, but we're still building.
Head down grinding. Love to hear it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, great to be here. I've got some very alpha stuff for you guys in terms of I have not announced it
Oh,
and shared like a new feature, so you guys will be the first that will be showcasing it on. But yeah, thanks for the intro just now. I mean, yeah, for those that don't know what Karma is, it's exactly what you just said, kind of a crypto super app. I think the Everything app is a very big moat, but yeah, it's just, you know, a founder testing as much as possible, and you just gotta get revenue, right? To really tie a token into something instead of just generating LP fees, and that's kind of the moat, right?
That's the mantra, right? Increase shareholder value. The first time we talked to you, again, you had a completely different product, and you pivoted now a little bit. Let's start at the top here. I want to get a bit of your background for the new audience here. Those are unfamiliar with you, but could you introduce yourself, kind of give a bit of your background briefly, and then we'll jump into like where the product stands right now.
For sure. So, TLDR, I've been in the Web2 space before I entered the crypto space. I was building in e-commerce for about 4 years, 5 years. The first brand that I built was a sticker company with stickers for cards, actually. So for debit cards and credit cards. So I kind of turned back into the space where I started. But yeah, built it
circle.
out. I sold that sticker company, then just had some e-commerce dropshipping stores, you know, the average e-com guy. Then turned into building in the Web2 space in terms of SaaS. Did that for about 2 years, which was a LinkedIn appointment setting agency software. And then suddenly, about a year ago, turned into crypto when by accident I launched the Karma token without any idea behind it. But yeah, just some experimenting with a Web2 centralized version of a Typeform competitor. Pretty weird story, but yeah, ended up in the crypto space and then analyzing like, hey, what's going on here? And just from a business Web2 perspective, you know, look at where the fee flows, so to say, how to be an entrepreneur within the Web3 space, and then how to tie the token into everything. Now then, just to top everything off, eventually you come to the realization the only way to really tie a token into everything is to first focus on generating actual revenue, because otherwise, again, you've got a Fugazi project that, yeah, people are just Ponzi scheming on a simple idea, if that makes sense. There's no substance. So that's what I've been doing for the last 12 months. And especially the last quarter, I've been just focused on getting everything as lean as possible, getting to profitability as fast as possible, and also making sure that we generate actual revenue so that we can tie in the token into the app.
Yeah, you know, the fact that you're sitting here in front of us today, I think is a bit of a testament to your character and drive. Because, I mean, if I think back to the Believe days, there's like 3 or 4 of you guys that stuck around today to actually build out the project. So the few that have, I think, again, like it's something to take note of. So just want to give you a shout out there and pat on the back.
Appreciate that.
With that said, what is Karma? Where are we today, and what should people be looking forward to? I guess that's way too much in one. But what is Karma
Yeah.
today?
Karma currently is a crypto native app which allows you to bank, spend, and trade. So a very TLDR of the product suite that it currently exists of, a crypto credit card, which you can use to spend your crypto straight from your trading wallet immediately in, you know, the whatever stores in real life through a Visa card. Virtual accounts, Euro, USD, and starting from Monday, also GBP. So there's your first feature announcement. But yeah, it basically allows you to do all of the banking and spending stuff in one crypto native app. And then starting from, that's what I've been working on, starting from last quarter, or no, actually last month, you can actually trade on the app as well. So it's just the trade, bank, and spend app where you can, yeah, kind of do everything together. And then the stuff that I'll be showing you in a bit will kind of bring everything actually together into one crypto experience.
Yeah, so let's kind of touch on this a little bit more. You're in this banking space. We've seen a lot of people try to do this. I think the emergence of stable coins has been extremely prominent over the last year when you've been building this. You said you're integrating, you know, the Great British Pound. I think you mentioned you already have the Euro, but talk us through what you're seeing, I guess, on the side of emerging stablecoin issuance in like emerging markets and countries, because I think we are seeing a lot of adoption on the QR side for QR payments. and stablecoins are becoming very prominent. So maybe just like generally, what are you seeing on that in that regards?
Yeah. I think just stepping back from the Karma product itself here, you see a lot of M&A activity within the stablecoin space, so to say. So every product on the infrastructure level, so I'm talking about not Karma is like a tertiary level. I'm talking about the top level, the Visas, the Mastercards, the people that actually give us the rails to build crypto products on. There's a lot of M&A activity happening there. So, for example, MoonPay is very aggressively acquiring, very aggressively. Like every week, I see like new announcements of acquisition.
Where are they getting this money from, dude?
That's the question, right? So there's like clearly institutional funds and investment flowing into the specific kind of niche where stablecoins kind of replace the traditional banking rails. So, and that's, I think we've discussed this like on the last two episodes that I was on as well. That's something that I betted on from the start because it's a totally common sense replacement if it comes to business banking and fiat rails that we have. It's very outdated, right? So yeah, a lot of M&A activity happening, and I think it's something that is not slowing down, even though we are like in a clear bear market. And it's something that will, yeah, probably keep going for a while, and let's see where it ends and if it actually, becomes truly adaptable.
Let's explore this M&A conversation because I do agree with you. We've been seeing a lot of mergers, acquisitions, liquidity events in this sense happen. Are you guys seeking an M&A? Like, what's the end goal for Karma? Obviously, you're working now in the bear market, and this is typically when we see it happen. It's a lot of work through the bear market, then you get acquired, early stages of a bull market or into the bull market by these big companies. Is this an end goal for Karma? If someone approaches you guys with an acquisition offer, are you guys interested in that?
Yes, I think it is. It should be the end goal of every entrepreneur, really. If you look at just in general, right? I believe like the true wealth generation is made in a liquidity event, and this goes for just average business, but also in the Web3 business. And ideally, I want to combine that with the token into that, right? Like we've seen like very like a lot of experiments, Street, Bedrock, like all of these kind of frameworks that people are experimenting on actually tying the liquidity event at the end of the road with upside for the actual tokens. And I think that is something that I want, Karma to end up being as well. But it's a very experimental space, and I think we'll get more clarity, among like probably like the next year. Like it's a long horizon, but that's where I'm here building Karma for. It's not like a short-term thing, and it will most likely go hand in hand with that. But to TLDR, yes, definitely. I think everyone that's saying no to that, like no, we're not getting acquired or whatever. No, the liquidation event, that's where you should work towards, and that's, if we're diving into the metrics in a bit, that's the reason that you want to be attractive, right? You want these metrics to be up. So I reached out just to top it off to, for example, MoonPay and some other, institutions as well, or companies that are actively doing these mergers and acquisition. Like, hey, what are you looking into? What are metrics that you are looking into? And, kind of, reflect that on the internal stats and what decisions we can make to, make it more attractive to these acquirers.
These are really good questions to ask. What are your findings on this? I'm not sure if MoonPay or any of these guys have responded in general, but based on your thesis and I guess findings, what are people saying the main drivers are for these acquisitions?
The main thing is distribution. It always comes back to distribution. You can have you can have like literally a copycat of another product, but then always the product with the most distribution will win. And that is also, if you look at the actual M&A activity, if someone wants to acquire a specific profile, let's say a super app, right? They will always look at the top 5 within that specific niche. So as long as you're not in that top 5, you are not a potential M&A candidate, most likely, if that makes sense. I mean, everyone basically, if you look at these apps, and I've made a post about it, like I truly believe that in a couple of months you'll see neobanks disappear because they're not profitable and they're not self-sustainable, and they're just wrapping, the infrastructure that these institutions provided us with. But you need to become one of the biggest. You need to play to win instead of playing not to lose.
Yeah,
So
no,
distribution.
totally agree. Let's talk about how you guys get there. Because yeah, if a merger acquisition is the goal, we need to know the steps that you're going to take to get there. So, talk me through, I guess, recent high level. There are obviously a lot of numbers, $522,000 in monthly volume, all time highs for you guys, which is very impressive. I think nearly doubling what you did the previous month, if I'm correct. So maybe talk me through some of the metrics and numbers, which you just mentioned are very important, and talk me through how you go from point A, where we are right now, to acquisition end goal.
Yeah, I think to make it the conversation as easy as possible, you could split this up in 2 stages. So the first stage is, or actually 3 stages, but the starting point is simply the idea, right? So Karma, the idea, the concept is basically one crypto app where you combine the banking and the trading side of things in a social experience. Sure, very cool. But that idea, only can generate mind share across if you have a token, and then ramp up the token price to a certain level because it's the attention around that idea. But the idea itself has no value, to be very truthfully long term, right? So that's where stage 2 comes in, and that's the stage where I'm currently in, which is turning that idea into an actual reality that is self-sustainable. And what I mean with self-sustainability is literally profitability, right? This is what, when I talk to VCs in the early beginnings, because I do feel like investment at some point is kind of a need to again become one of the big five, to be interesting candidate towards like an M&A or like whatever liquidation event. You need to be very aggressive in user acquisition. But when I was talking with these VC figures, they were saying the same thing. Besides distribution, they want to see actual traction. And this traction can be just 100 users that turns your idea into a profitable kind of MVP, right? So that's what I've been focusing on the last couple of months, where I realized the banking side of things, and that's why I'm very bearish on all of these sold neobanks. It's not self-sustainable because everyone's again using the same APIs, the same cost structure. You cannot compete on the pricings. So that's when it kind of pivoted into, okay, what can we experiment on making it profitable and getting to the self-sustainability point? And that's where the trading side of things came in. Now, trading is a very competitive space, and so you really want to experiment and find your own mold, so to say, to first of all get users on the app and then actually also keep them on the app. So that's where I've been very experimentative with, and kind of just tried everything, and then eventually you just look at the numbers, data driven wise. At the end of the month, what are the metrics of the trading? Like, did it improve? And so last month was a very good example. It did, right? So just a TLDR, last month we did 520K in volume. About 274K of that was in actual banking volume. So this was through the virtual accounts or the card spending. And then 247K of that was in swap and trading volume. We recently integrated with DFlow, which is our announcement that we haven't put out yet. But it's basically it's the industry standard if it comes to trading. Prior, we were just wrapping the Jupyter API, but we talked with the DFlow team and integrated that into our product. But yeah, that basically kind of put like some sort of trust, in myself, where it's like, okay, cool, this generates actual volume, and volume is very monetizable in various ways. You just got to give people a reason to use the app and actually pay fees on the app. Just to name an example, I think FOMO has generated a total of $18 million in fees and is generating between 50 and 100K per day, depending on the activity in a bear market, which is
Right.
very impressive. And I think they've proven, like, they've literally taken this idea and have like a proof of concept, like, hey, social trading is a thing. Like it's not like it's proven, right? And I
Yeah.
think copying is one thing, but copying only will not get you there. You will need to again find your own mode. And that's what I'll be showcasing in a little demo of like the features that's currently not yet available in the app, but will be available next week. That kind of puts that together and puts us to stage 3, which is, okay, you're self-sustainable, you're profitable. How do you now 100x it? Because It's cool that you're now, you can exist, but how do you become like the top 5 in between there?
Sure.
And that's stage 3.
So quickly to jump in on this too, because I want to touch on this FOMO test case. We recently heard that of their 600,000 users, about 500,000 are from outside crypto, right? It's been a good onboarding event through TikTok and other facets. Do we think FOMO's success is largely driven through their social aspect of it, or more so their marketing in, I guess, more untapped markets and like TikTok, Instagram, and whatnot? Combination of
I
both,
thi-
maybe,
What?
or a combination of both, maybe.
I think it could be a combination, but to be very honest, I've been looking indeed I've read it as well. I've been looking in their Web2 kind of marketing side of things. I would say yes, but it's not like a very or in general, like the numbers are quite small still. Between 50 and 100K in fees per day is like considered quite small in the broader spectrum of things. But I haven't seen that much FOMO marketing stuff on TikTok and stuff. However, I must say, if you look at the traditional business, if you look at, for example, TradFi, right, Forex, they use like affiliates, right? They use like influencers. They push like, hey, I'm using this broker and stuff, and that's something that makes a lot of sense, and that I've seen with some of these FOMO accounts that I came across. So yes, but honestly, it's CT. I wouldn't say it's just like, yeah, only socials. But again, numbers are numbers, and I'm not sure if anything is verified, from what I understood.
Sure.
And I wanted to you gave us some great metrics earlier in terms of volume, volume on the banking side, volume on the trading side. How does that compare to the metrics from before? Like how much, just trying to get a sense of how much you grew over time.
I can actually pull this up. I should be able to.
Let's
But
do it.
at the top of my head, okay, so last month the total was again about 520K in product volume, and then the month before that we had a dip. It was like a bad month considerably, which was about 220K. And then the month before that was 300K, and then the month before that was 160. So it's been fluctuating, but in terms of volume growth, and again attributing the actual volume, before last month it was all banking volume, and now there's like this new revenue stream, which is swap volume and trading volume that has come in, which basically redistributes the volume, if that makes sense. So we added base trading, for example, at the beginning of this month. So it's going to be very interesting to look at the results of this month and see if I can get it above 1 million in volumes, and then see how the trading side of things grows, because that is where the most of the revenue comes from in any of the apps, honestly.
How are you guys planning on growing that side of the business? What's the steps you have to take there?
Is it cool that I kind of combined answering this question with then the actual demo? I'll just switch
Please.
the camera and show you.
Absolutely. Please do. Yeah.
I've got this whole like camera rig set up, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Oh,
I don't know.
it's all for
didn't
show.
get it. Yeah, it didn't work like 10 minutes before I tried to fix it. Let me just flip my iPad camera and show you my mobile in my hands. Let's see. Okay. See that?
There we go.
There we go. Okay, so I've got the Karma app in front of me, and I think it's a very interesting question because, again, it's one thing to make yourself self-sustainable. Is everything good to seeing on the screen, by the way? Do I need
Looks
to...
good, yeah.
Yep, looks good.
Perfect. So it's one thing to get to self-sustainability and profitability, and then the next thing is, okay, how do you hyperskill, so to say? And I think a token, especially since, again, it is something, that you somehow need to work with and integrate into the app. So I think it's an opportunity, honestly. The token is the way to do it, right? A token brings a lot of attention to the product, and then it's your job to kind of monetize that attention into, in the product, right? And that is something that I've not done before. I mean, the token got some attention in the last year, but the product was not even close as it is right now. So besides the basic trading and the swaps that basically every app does, there's a couple of things that some of our users pointed out are very important to kind of bring their main ports to the app. The first are just the basics. I'm just going to run down the basics and then going to answer the question with the new feature. The basics are just abstracting the chains, right? So we've implemented and we've shipped this one unified cash balance, which is basically together with Circle, where we abstract all of the chains and kind of bridge it all behind the screen so that for you it's just one cash balance and you can buy on every chain. Currently it's Base and Solana, but yeah, the goal is to kind of bring this to every chain at the end of the month. All of the other basics, like having an actual card and actual virtual accounts, are in the app as well. It's nothing new. I've showcased this in the last episode that I was on here as well. Now, one thing that kind of brings the dopamine addiction to users and kind of keeps like the retention of users high is the actual social experience, right? So the actual idea of completing challenges. You guys talked about like these prop firm kind of these prop firms entering crypto as well, and all of these challenges as well. These are all retention mechanics besides them earning revenue. So what we did is something that you've seen in maybe some other apps before. I mean, FOMO, for example, has a centralized feed as well, where you can post and basically do everything that you can on Twitter, but then on tokens, right? This is nothing new. This is nothing interesting. And so I asked myself the question, and together with some of the token holders as well, like, hey, how can we really build something that's unique and that is not done before, right? What is something that would literally change the way of trading and the way of like just the token mechanics? And as you know, a lot of attention that goes into tokens comes from KOLs. It comes from influencers on Twitter. Now, where am I going with this? All of these KOLs until now had to kind of hold their bags, use side wallets, and that's what you see on apps like FOMO as well. And then, get as much attention to the token and then literally, literally drop on their audience. And so what we are doing is we're not only introducing the standards that every other app is with a feed. We're going to reward the actual alpha that you're sharing in the feed. And what I mean with that is, again, FOMO has earned $18 million. I'm referencing FOMO here just because, it's a simple example. But FOMO has earned, for example, $18 million from what we can see on Dune, in fees. These fees are just going straight into their own pockets, right? And so the first narrative that I heard people say, where I'm like, okay, well, I don't really like that. It's the Karma could be the investable FOMO, right? Okay, cool. But being an investable version of another app is not really an achievement, right? And so we came up with exactly what YouTube and X used to grow, which is the creator revenue program. So if you're not familiar, Google and YouTube have this like Google AdSense program where basically the revenue comes from the ads they show in their videos, and then they share the revenue that comes from these ads with their creators. X, of course, has a similar thing, but with trading apps, it's kind of, I've never seen this before, and so Karma would be the first to do this, and that's what I'm trying to roll out in the next week, and I'm announcing now here because it's quite solidified. It just needs a lot of testing. Is our fee revenue doesn't come from ads, but it comes from trades, right? And instead of pocketing it directly into our own pockets, and instead of just doing the full, or do like the large portion into the token, we are going to reward the actual creators. And so you'd have a crypto first app where the actual thesis that you post gets rewarded based on the trades that people make on your thesis, if that makes sense. And so on let's say I post, something, I go in here and I say like, hey, I select Karma, and I've got this thesis like, hey, Karma has got this new feature that they're launching. Yeah, I think it will go up by blah, blah, blah. I post it, and let's say you guys see this in the app, and you click on it, and then you buy. We in the app track basically every buy and sell that you do, and we can attribute that like, hey, okay, Amrish has posted something on Karma, and these 10 people or 100 people have bought it. It all generated together. They generated about $1,000 in trading fees, and we're going to allocate this percentage among the creators that have attributed to these buys. I can go into like, it's a very nerdy talk, but I can go into that later. off episode, how the attribution actually would work. But yeah, it's something that's not been in crypto, and I think truly is the way to actually attract traders, which is again the distribution part that every VC was talking about, onto the app, and have like actual quality and smart money, onto the app, instead of just what we've been seeing, like very degenerative and immature, approach of trading.
Yeah, no, I think this is definitely a really good way to incentivize sophisticated traders. I know a few people trying to kind of iterate on this. It all comes down to the go-to-market strategy here, right? How do you bring this in front of the right users? Are you targeting mainly just Web3? Or are you going to also target, traditional markets as well? So kind of curious what your thinking is on this, and maybe elaborate on your go-to-market strategy here.
So I think that Web 2 is actually the go-to-market that you want to have. But the truth is, the initial revenue comes from Web 3. So the moment that this feature will be live, the first audience that will be onboarded is Web 3. This is also the audience that has the most info on the tokens, right? It's for example, I've been in this space for like 1 year. I'll be posting in it as well, right? I know a lot about the neobanking side of niche. I know a lot of these neobanking tokens, and can compare and bring like value around these. So the first audience would be Web3. However, once a group of these people are onboarded, and again, 100 people that is onboarded and are actually trading, let's say 5K volume per day, is generating us 75K in revenue per month, because there's like, just like any other app, there's a 0.5% fee on every trade. Unless you hold Karma, there's like a token utility, you get 0 fees. But long story short, there's like a lot of revenue that you can get from just the first 100 people, which you can then allocate to marketing and getting like attention from the Web 2 people. So that's kind of the catalyst strategy that I'm planning on taking, where, okay, first 10101, again, just 100 people, not a lot. I can literally PM them, so to say, if you have to. Need to be onboarded on the app that actually trade and get usage on the volume, because otherwise, why would you even use the app? And from there, indeed, the catalyst is Web 2. Like, we all know that. I mean, the metrics that in this case still unverified, you've mentioned from FOMO, prove the exact same point.
Yeah. All right. Chill. I'm not sure if you had something to jump in with there.
No. Go ahead. We're actually coming on time, so we might not have time for it. You can go.
Yeah, not too much time. We got Colby up in a second here, but I just want to talk about token. Obviously, this all sounds great in theory, but we needed to somehow the economics flow back to the token. I think you were maybe going to alluding to that earlier. Kind of curious on your thoughts where the token plays into it, and if we could keep it kind of choppy here so we can get on to our next guest.
Yeah, it's two things. So the first thing is, of course, utility. The first thing that's already implemented is, for example, the utility of 0 fees, right? Well, that utility alone is not enough. That's clear. The second thing we're doing is kind of a light buying pressure kind of mechanic that's already live, is on every trade, there's a cashback. And the higher tier you become in the app, the more cashback you get. This cashback is actual money from the fees that gets used to buy Karma until it's claimed. So I don't know if you guys know the story of Starbucks, but I'm not going to dive too deep into that. They've basically got this wallet mechanism where you hold funds in your wallet, which you can use for buying Starbucks, but a lot of people just keep the money in there. And so that's the same mechanics that we're doing with Karma. And the last month, a lot of people left these cashback unclaimed. And that means that it automatically creates buying pressure in idle wallets for Karma. Then the third thing is, of course, the direct link between the revenue that we're going to generate with the token. Besides just rewarding creators, there's going to be a split with what's going to happen with the revenue. So let's say 50%, I'm not going to define percentages here, but let's say 50% of that goes to OPEX, and then like 25% goes to token buybacks, 25% goes to creator rewards. I need to find like a proper, like this is all going to be very experimentative and see like, what it ends up to be, but that's how it will look like.
Got you. Amrish, it's always a pleasure. To close us off here, maybe give the people something to chew on. You dropped a bit of hints on what's coming next. You dropped the partnership with DFlow. You also, talked about how you're introducing GBP as the next asset on the app. Maybe talk us through roadmap. What comes next? What should people be excited for?
So the first next things are indeed like a lot of features within the app, but most importantly, since like it's very crypto native, we'll be launching this feed feature and also the social creative revenue program next week. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on that and download the app to get access to that as first. And then from there, it will be very interesting to see how the token will integrate into this revenue. One most important thing that you'll be seeing is a live real-time dashboard where you guys can publicly, for the first time, see all of these metrics as soon as everything is live. And then just keep an eye on that. And then we'll see how the experiments with the token go and how the money will flow.
We gotta jump. I saw you post something about Umbra Wallet, I think. How does this stack up in terms of volumes to something like Umbra?
I think Umbra is a very I've talked to these guys actually, and I think privacy is a very important thing to include in banking as well. So an integration with Umbra is on the table. But if it comes to volumes, privacy is like a different kind of beast, honestly. It's something that Karma hasn't been touching yet. So volume wise, it wouldn't really compare at all.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Amrish, thanks so much for coming on. We're excited for these updates. Really cool to see the direction you've taken it. Of course, as always, really great to see founders that have been here for the long term and just continue to build. So best of luck to you. We'll stay in contact.
Appreciate that. Good luck with the show. Stay in touch.
There we go.
Appreciate it.
A little wink. See you, bud. Wow, was he flirting with me?
You're stupid. That was a great interview, man. We've always, if you guys have been long-time viewers of the show, you guys remember him from a year ago, and he was the founder that had nothing in his apartment, right? But like an air mattress, just like pure. Yeah,
he had the blank
pure
apartment
building.
and just was sleeping on the air mattress. I think he had like the computer and was grinding, dude. It was it was like Zuckerberg-esque kind of. It was great. It was great. Nonetheless, we don't want to take too long here because we got Colby in the waiting room. Really interesting one. It's been a while since we've seen a Ethereum coin. This kind of remind me of the ERC 404 tokens. I'm not sure, Chill, if you remember back in the day. We got the ERC 404 tokens, which were tied to an NFT. I think this has some of the similar mechanisms in there. But Colby's a core contributor here at Prism, and we're really excited to dive into the new mechanisms. I think there's like a three-pronged approach to some of the things in the ecosystem, but ultimately the crux is it's the first token. We're holding it is providing liquidity. So I've been seeing a lot of buzz. I've been seeing a lot of smart people, the right people talk about this. And I think Colby is going to do a great job breaking it down. So ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend, Colby. We're so excited to chat today.
Hi, Dom. Hi, Jill. Good to be here. Lovely show so far. I'm really excited to help contribute today.
Well,
Absolutely.
We're excited.
Appreciate you coming on the show. Excited to dig into Prism and all things that is the tech and beyond.
Indeed. Yeah.
I guess the first place we like to start, though, Colby, is a lot of times with the I'm not sure if to say team or core contributor here. You let me know which word is better, but just with your background.
Member, I would suppose. Yeah, indeed. I mean, that's the fascinating thing about Prism. It's very much, kind of the core conception of crypto, right? You have a dev who creates this idea. Anyone can jump on it and spin up ideas and build on top of it. But yeah, happy to jump into my background. I mean, I've been in the space since 2016, 2017. And just basically fell in love with the technology, to be honest. I was a big nerd on like RuneScape and all kinds of like old school games. And I think a lot of people come into crypto with that kind of background, right? They get used to digital economies and then just get sucked into crypto. Started and basically got completely addicted and lost in the whole world, decided to jump into it full time. I run an investment company, a proprietary investment company here in Malta. And we invest in on-chain assets, basically. And we discovered Prism completely out of the blue 2 weeks ago to this day, and kind of got hooked on the whole concept. I mean, pardon the pun there, but basically it's about how do we help invest and highlight and build on interesting primitives. I actually worked for an NFT ticketing company for 4 years in Amsterdam. So basically, it was effectively kind of a similar story, right? You use an on-chain primitive to try and help people, everyday people who have no idea this technology is being used. And so that's how I got into kind of building in the space. We were powering like literally a giant concert show in Amsterdam at the Ziggo Dome, and everyone had an NFT ticket, and they had no idea it was just a mobile application. So been in the space for quite a while. I'm really excited to be a community member, a contributor, building with things on top of Prism.
Could you do us a favor and kind of just give us the overview? Obviously, I'm sure most of the audience is unfamiliar with Prism, and for the audience that is familiar, maybe just give us a good high-level overview of what Prism is.
Yeah, no, sure thing. I mean, so it's in a nutshell, it was an experiment by an anonymous developer, an OG Ethereum developer, who was fascinated by hooks, by Uniswap's V4 hooks. This is a thing that kind of came out of the blue like last year, and it took a while to take off because they had this whitelist on who could use hooks. So you had to actually be part of their sort of inner circle of experimenting with it. And then, since October with the kind of whole 10 of the 10 situation, I think a lot of people kind of didn't realize this was in existence. And then this thing called Unipeg came around, right, where all of a sudden you bought a token and it minted you this unicorn picture. And I always like to think like sometimes the cutest things are the things that go viral and get experimented with most. And ultimately, like this developer took that concept and was like, okay, hooks is cool. Let's try and use this to actually build some, financial innovation on top of it. And really, in a nutshell, all it does is basically when you buy the token, you're actually buying the underlying liquidity position. So what hooks is, in a nutshell, it's kind of like the App Store, but for swaps, right? So before it was like you send something in, you sell something, you buy something, and there's no underlying logic to the pool. It's just A to B. Uniswap took that and they basically allowed a developer to change the way a swap works. So you can actually swap out what functions get used within when you're doing the swap action. So literally behind the scenes, you can do a whole range of things as a developer. And this is what this developer did, was literally when you buy Prism, it's actually depositing it into the liquidity pool, giving you the liquidity position as an NFT, because all Uniswap liquidity positions are NFTs. And you're literally just passively holding that just by swapping, and you're earning fees from, people trading in and out of the pool. So a super, useful way to basically use hooks, because let's be honest, even today, providing liquidity is still a nightmare for most people. No idea how to deploy, what ranges. This is just an unconscious thing where it's like really cool because then you benefit from what crypto has the most of, which is volatility. So that's Prism, the token in a nutshell.
What do the mechanisms behind this look like? Is the range auto adjusting, to make sure it doesn't ever, price doesn't ever leave the range, meaning fees are not accrued to the NFT. Tell me how this works mechanically.
Yeah. So with Uniswap, you can set a full range. So instead of a concentrated liquidity position, it's the whole shebang. And that's what this is basically. So it doesn't matter what market cap, doesn't matter where it is in the liquidity pool, it will always gather fees. The nice thing about it is you're getting both, right? You're getting the Ethereum and you're getting the Prism. And that's effectively how that token works. When I discovered it on like two weeks ago on the Thursday, I immediately dived into like, okay, what does the contract actually look like? And it's just so cool to see because you have this before swap kind of function, which usually just literally dictates what you're buying from the pool. And that basically gets completely swapped out with, okay, actually buy it and then mint the NFT, the liquidity position behind the scenes.
Got you. Okay, so you have this Prism. It also has and by the way, one Prism is more expensive than your typical tokens that you see. It's like multiple hundreds of dollars, right? So you get your Prism. You have one Prism equals one NFT, and that it represents a liquidity position. Okay, this is cool, but why would someone want to hold the token outside of just trading fees? I mean, constantly occurring to them. Is this a network token? I know there's a bit of an ecosystem underneath, and I think that's what really gets interesting here. Could you maybe talk me through some of that?
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, I think what's beautiful about a token that is its own liquidity position is it incentivizes people to build on top of it because it's yield generating in a sense, right? So if you can actually create an ecosystem around this token, you can actually kind of use the volatility, use the fees to great effect. And it kind of just spawned out of a complete coincidence. It was like, here's this insane primitive, which is hooks, but no one's really used it to any interesting use case. Well, okay, there are interesting use cases. Maybe that's a bit unfair, but to actually like create financial primitives around it, right? Instead of, I love unicorns, don't get me wrong. I love NFTs, but let's try and be serious with this and think of cool ideas. So, that's where this ecosystem has spawned, because that's the thing. I'm not on the team. I'm not the developer. I'm literally a community member who runs an investment company who loves, ideating around concepts, and now with AI building with things. And so, yeah, it was how basically the idea was, as a community, how do we take this primitive and run with it? Like actually create genuinely useful applications using this primitive. And that spawned the concept of Spectrum, which is something that the developer is running, which is effectively, in a nutshell, like index tokens. And yeah, basically the cool thing is, with a hook, the technology obviously allows you to do so much with it. So say you're swapping Ethereum into a pool, what you're able to do with the hook is literally buy underlying tokens with it, right? And it's just held there. And the actual price of an index token is based on the NAV price of all of the assets in the basket. Because like, I think this is really important, because at the end of the day, like, how many times do we get something so cool happening in crypto, like a sector that genuinely makes sense, like AI in crypto, right? That intersection. But there's just not enough like liquidity. There's not enough attention to go around. And ultimately, all of these projects, they fight for attention and they fight for people just rotating between these tokens. And what, TradFi obviously does really well is, if I'm really excited about memory, I just go and find the memory, ETF, right?
Right.
And what this allows for is that, for passive flows, in a sense, for people to get behind genuine builders behind a narrative and benefit all of them. And I mean, like, the thing is, there's a Spectrum V1, like, that's released by the developer, hosted by the developer. And it's been so cool to just, if you look at like one of those tokens in an index, you just see these tiny little, pool activities, these buys that are actually coming from people just buying these indexes. So I think this has so much promise, ultimately, as a genuine novel use case that, hopefully anyone can use them, right?
So I got a couple questions on this, man, because that was a lot. And honestly, this is really interesting. So the first question is, the basket of tokens, does that have to be on like the EVM side? Can it just be anywhere? Like,
yeah. So it is EVM. So it's Base and Ethereum. You can't do multi-chain, but you can create a Base basket. You can create an Ethereum basket using this technology. There is no Solana or anything like that. I'm not sure what the developer is planning for that. But yeah, currently Base and ETH. But to be honest, like, I genuinely think Base is where a lot of really innovative like ecosystems and projects spawn, right? I mean, that's kind of where, like, the banker ecosystem, for example, how many incredible developers have been inspired to actually use public markets and use tokens to try and generate interest and capital formation around their businesses. So yeah.
Got it. And I guess, so I'm just trying to make sure I understand this fully. So the kind of like index tokens, that was the first use case, kind of leveraging what Prism is building. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how do we use hooks and how do we use sort of Prism as an idea and slash like, ecosystem to just forward this narrative and forward this technology. So yeah, think of it kind of like as the dev's second ambition, basically. Okay, I've invented this whole liquidity providing token, that just auto accrues LP. The next thing is indexes, right? Yeah.
Would you describe this as a new liquidity primitive? Is that
I think so.
accurate?
I genuinely think so. I mean, like, the thing is, it's all about how this gets adopted by the space, right? Like, that's the big picture now, is how does this get implemented and plugged into with different ecosystems? Will you see an influencer, for example, create a basket and actually curate that basket? And that's really where the ecosystem needs to go. Yeah, but the thing is, I think it's genuinely a new novel primitive, because can you imagine how easy it is in one click for someone to support an entire ecosystem? And like, there could be, for example, with the developer, they could make it so you could have a version of an index. So an influencer or someone who has incredible experience in a specific sector can, basically create a new updated index and weight the basket and curate it, so to speak. Yeah. So
I want to dive deeper. I want to dive deeper into the basket side of things. There's a couple of interesting questions in the chat too that I want to answer. But before we get to them, the first thing, use case. So the index is just the first use case. I mean, from you know more about Prism and the ecosystem that could be built on top of it better than us. What other use cases do you see that could possibly come out of this?
So we are actually building our own like product on top of this called Gift, which is again a complete another way of taking this whole thing, which is literally like making it fun to gift on the internet again, right? Like think about how great on-chain tech is at being able to transfer value from one person to another, and then think about how much gifting on the internet sucks. Like, oh, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to Venmo you $10, or I'm going to give you this gift card you can scratch off and then type into a little, discount area on a site. Like, what we're genuinely thinking of doing is, and it's going to be launching in the next week or two. But imagine being able to go on and literally create a one-to-one experience between you and the receiver of a gift. So you create a cool box, create an animation around it, customize the box, drop in any kind of asset. So it literally could be a Pokemon card, a Pokemon pack to rip, a piece of retail merchandise, a token, an NFT, anything that you can think of that like can exist on chain. You box it into a gift. You use like the Prism contracts programmatically in the background, bundle it all up, and literally send it to an email or a mobile number using Privy, using their embedded wallets. And I think like really what the Prism ecosystem ultimately is the distribution layer for accessible on-chain like primitives, right? It's making it actually easy for anyone to, use. So that's that's the next thing.
So in connection to that, this question from Crypto Cuba is actually like really perfectly timed. Is there any value accrual between Prism and baskets, or are they separate? And I'd even extend that to, is there any value accrual to, what you guys are about to launch, or is that something separate?
Yeah. No, so like the developer has enshrined the Prism value accrual in the contracts. So it's literally for an index token, 10% of all the fees go to buy and burn Prism. That's the value accrual on the indexes. And with Gift, we're also going to make it programmatic. Like I've actually got this big article being released like in an hour or so about all of the wrong things in crypto, all the right things. And I'm such a big proponent for like programmatic value accrual of tokens. So yeah, we're going to have it in Gift where basically on any buy or sell volume on like the gifts that are being put into a basket, there's going to be Prism, sort of a value accrual there. So absolutely 100%. And anyone's going to verify that through the contracts as well. I mean, there's the Prism beat. I think you put it on the screen earlier. That's the community site where you can literally see all of the activity. So just think of it effectively as there becomes a new ecosystem app, whether it's something we build or whether it's from someone else that builds on top of this, you can see it all there live in real time. I personally like the radio where you can literally just vibe out and actually see like fees accrue in real time. But yeah, so no, 100%, there'll be a value accrual. Yeah.
Nice. And one other thing, you just mentioned you have this article coming in about an hour. If you don't mind giving us just a quick TLDR or even a preview or at least a clip, and we'll definitely like quote tweet it later on. But why is programmatic value so important? Why is that better than just the normal value accrual that you see in the space now?
Yeah, so the article has got a spicy title. It's called "Retailers' Right to Hate Crypto," which I mean, basically wants to get to the bottom of everything that's gone wrong with the industry, but all the chances we have to right it, but we have a window to do so. I mean, the reason why value accrual to a token is so important is because, like, we are not the hot, flashy sector anymore. AI is, right? And you can see that in so many token charts. There is not enough speculative bid. There is not enough narrative bid for tokens anymore. And this is why so many of them are basically having a sort of come to Jesus moment where they actually don't have an underlying value accrual mechanism to their token. It's all been speculation and narrative. And now that new shiny arena is elsewhere, the whole market is suffering. And part of it's been regulation, right? Part of it is it's hard to tie value accrual to a token in a regulatory compliant way. But also, let's be real, the other part of it is there have been bad actors in this space who have tried to use retail as exit liquidity. I think one of the biggest issues and why I'm so excited about Prism is if you think about it, like retail has always been the end leg of any trade, right? They have to go through a centralized exchange. By that point, they've gone through like 10 middlemen. They've gone through the KOLs, the bundlers. They've gone through the market makers. They've gone through everyone who can get their hands on a token. And basically, we've just used, or the space has used, retail as exit liquidity. And now I think the actual innovations, like Privy embedded wallets, incredible. Email sign up, you get a wallet, you can actually interact on chain. Then you use AI to actually build genuinely useful, user experiences. And then you combine it all together into something finally retail and individuals can actually access new novel on-chain primitives early. They don't have to be the last one into something exciting. And yeah, this article basically just goes into that, all the frustrations I've seen within the industry that I think everyone else really resonates with, and why now is the window of time, mainly driven by AI, to be honest, for us to actually get native on-chain experiences in front of everyday people before traditional finance does, right? It's that whole weak crypto, hard crypto like debate, where if TradFi just takes the rails, plugs it into the existing apps, like the whole space loses its sort of ability to like prove itself again to individuals, to showcase that actual like native on-chain experiences can be genuinely beneficial to individuals. So yeah.
Yeah, and if I can jump in here and circle back to the value accrual, I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. The V4 hooks enable Prism to become a thing to where each position is the underlying liquidity and it all flows back to the token holders. Within this ecosystem now, you have the indexes, you have what you're building, and whatever kind of spawns out from this. And you said, within the smart contracts, there will be, maybe 10% or whatever it is that will go back towards automatically buying and burning the Prism token. But you don't need to do this. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, are you guys just using V4 hooks on the back end to achieve the same outcome that Prism is achieving? Or are you maybe building this on top of Prism's tech stack and then auto occurring there? Because I'm just trying to understand how this fully works.
Yeah, it's a really good question. The thing is, so like the sort of spectrum, those contracts were developed by the same Prism dev, right? And ultimately it was, instead of just having a bazillion tokens around every individual concept, let's concentrate it, around one thing and actually try to drive some good, towards one sort of, one concept. I mean, the thing is like, I believe like the ambitions is if you have all these contracts that use hooks in a smart, safe way, other people can actually just, instead of building them themselves and potentially having risk, they can just take them, use them for their own, applications. And that's obviously what we're doing with like, bundling stuff into a gift. It's so easy to do that through a hook where you can just have everything, through one vehicle rather than just individually. And then, yeah, like why make it programmatic or why drive it back to Prism? Well, I think it's because of the fact that Prism, obviously, it's auto accruing its own yield, right? So it's actually the perfect vehicle for if you believe in the whole ecosystem, you have this one thing that when you hold, you're benefiting from the volatility of it as people build on top of it and drive flows back into, Prism. Yeah.
So I guess another question, I'm not sure if this is Crypto Jones' question as well, but why the burn? I mean, you have this asset that's accruing revenue over time. The longer you hold, the more revenue kind of flows to it. That those flows can even be redistributed to the ecosystem, stakers or holders or whatever it might be. Are you thinking against the burning mechanism, or do you think burning is important, and for what reason?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's ultimately like Hyper's sort of driven that point home, right? In terms of the buybacks, or at least, like the nice thing is you get both with Prism, right? Like ultimately with swap fees, that is yield back to holders, and then when anything is built on top of it, it's just far easier to just accrue it by driving volume back into that mechanism. So literally, the activity of buying and burning is also driving the the LP flywheel of Prism as well. But yeah, like, I mean, I think realistically, it's just the easiest and surest way to guarantee value in a world which tokens are still figuring out their value accrual, right? And like how you do governance. I think MetaDAO perhaps have been the sort of furthest along with actual enshrined governance rules, but the easiest and safest way is just programmatic buy and burn, like value accrual, right?
Yeah. I mean, for this ecosystem to really get more robust, I mean, there's got to be two
Mhm.
sides to it. It's like if we're going to write into the smart contract and we're going to have buybacks and burns flowing to, back to the ecosystem of the token, the ecosystem's also got to benefit me. What does the ecosystem do, I guess, from their standpoint to really benefit the builders that are building within it? Is there
Yeah.
marketing efforts? Is there acceleration? Do they put manpower, dev resources towards building these things out? Just kind of
Mhm.
curious where that comes in.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, like the cool thing is, especially with like AI coding and development, the whole point is to have an open source suite of tools that any developer, like it's basically about giving them inspiration again, right? Giving a developer inspiration to actually want to build on chain again rather than go elsewhere. And like you saw that with the Prism developer, this is the first time he's launched a contract since like 2020, 2021, because finally this is a cool on-chain primitive that gets builders excited again. So the whole goal is to use that momentum, create open source tooling that anyone can tap into, and create an ecosystem around it. Because ultimately, so many developers, yeah, as you said, they don't have marketing capability. They don't have the ability to generate attention. If you create like a holder base and a team and ecosystem around that, it's much easier for the distribution leg of a builder's product to be spun up. Yeah, so hopefully that answers the question.
I think the indexes are a really good practical example of this working in real time.
Mm.
And I think I asked this question because it's going to go on to like, what's the broader thesis? Where can you see this working? I guess like further down the road. And I think the indexes are a good case we can use as an example. So maybe explain why this is important. I want to get your broader thesis. Obviously, you have these indexes,
Mhm.
and now these indexes are auto accruing revenue from the protocol, and that can be used to maybe buy back the asset over and over and kind of large in the pie for everybody. So maybe kind of explain that mechanism a little better for everybody, and then what this means for future projects building on top of this primitive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, I think it goes back to the wider thesis that I have of we have a very unique window of time here where AI is just reducing the capability to build something to zero. The perception of crypto with retail is absolutely awful, yet somehow paradoxically with institutions, they absolutely love this tech. If you ask a fintech company what they think about crypto and stablecoins, they'll tell you this is the best thing they've ever seen. You ask retail and they'll like just they hate the concept. But so now we have this chance as on-chain Web3 native people to write the perception and actually get native like products out there built by Web3 participants rather than just Web2 participants co-opting our rails and then adding it as a balance sheet item on to their stock, right? I mean, like anyone who came into this space early hates the idea that, oh, our whole like infra is going to be taken. Nothing's going to accrue back to tokens. Nothing's going to be able to allow retail to get in at the base level. Instead, you're going to be buying a stock at like a $1 trillion valuation as it goes public, the thesis of crypto's capital formation has a chance of being alive and well, but only for a limited amount of time, because otherwise the Revoluts of the world, the Robinhoods of the world, they're just going to take all of the good things out of this industry, slap it onto their line item. So yeah, like Prism, I hope, the developer hopes, the community hopes, can just be one of those beacons to actually build consumer applications and consumer use cases of tokens, of on-chain primitives to power experiences that people love. Like it's really a simple thesis, right? It's just a distribution layer for incredible user products that use on-chain tech in the background. If I send a gift to my mom, she doesn't want to know about a wallet. She doesn't want to know about on-chain tech. She won't even want to know about a hook. I'd love to explain it to her, and I have over the dinner table, and she hates me for it. But ultimately, it's how do I send this really cool thing to a friend or family, or with an index token, it's how do I benefit from this entire ecosystem? I don't have enough time. I've got a 9-to-5 job, etc. I can't research this, but someone who's super in the trenches, who knows this, can do that for me. And I just have this easy experience of buying an index token and benefiting from all of the other things. So yeah, in a nutshell, it's taking that giant thesis of we have a limited amount of time and making Prism be the beacon or the guiding light towards, hopefully achieving it. Yeah.
And so for this to really hit home for everybody, could you please explain the mechanism specifically behind these indexes, and
Yeah.
how this works? Maybe walk us through the process of creating an index, setting one up, and why someone would be better off buying this index rather than just a traditional index or whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so with V1, super clunky. The developer created it more as a concept than anything, right? Just to see people's responses around it. And that you needed to enter like contract address, set the Uniswap pool. There's a V2, so we've been working on the software. We won't be the operator. We won't be the launcher. This will be in the hands of, a dedicated personal team. But ultimately, what this will do is make it extremely easy to just add tokens into a basket. You type in the token you want, you see it, it checks in the background the best pool for liquidity. You get to set your weights. Like, it's a really nice user experience. Generates this, you get a link, you send it out. It works across aggregators, it works across front ends. It's just as simple as buying a normal token. But like with the smart contract magic in the background, what you're actually buying is, say, 8 different assets, and the value of that index token is literally by the weighted like value of every asset in the basket. And like for me, like, because I just love building with AI. It was about how do I just take my marketing background and make a user experience that genuinely feels fun. So on the screen now, you can see when you put a basket together, it kind of evolves and swirls and creates that index. And yeah,
great.
yeah, thank you. And there are ideas for like how you present this to retail friendly audiences. I think you can kind of see like when the index gets created, you get this little bento box of all your different assets.
Yeah.
So there are so many ways to build products on top of Prism and the primitives. And this V2 of Spectrum, will be one of those.
Now, in this case, do trading fees for the index somehow occur back to holders of Prism, or does this also hold back to holders of the index itself specifically?
Yeah.
Maybe elaborate there more.
Yeah, so we're literally going full circle on this. So you know how Prism obviously captures LP fees. Well, the cool thing about Uni Hooks is you actually get to set where the fees from a swap get distributed to, instead of having, because there is no liquidity pool behind an index token. It's literally just, all of the liquidity pools of the underlying assets, which makes it really, really easy to swap in and out of. It's not like a rush to the X or anything like that. But, ultimately it's, the fees are, so like the things, any deployer will likely be able to set their own fees, because it has to be truly decentralized, truly permissionless. And that's up to like, the dev with the contracts. But the way the current format is 60% of all the fees go back to the actual holder of the index token. 30% goes to the creator of that index, and then 10% goes to programmatically buying and burning Prism. So there is also an incentive for a creator, say like an influencer, to create their own basket. They capture 30% of the fees, and then they can just create something that's easier for people to access what they're interested in.
And I think this is the touch point here, right? So you have incentive to create indexes as a creator. And on the other hand, as a holder, you have an incentive to, buy the general market. In this case, it's the AI basket on base. But not only do you get the general market, you also get LP fees, which is really nice. I mean, we look at some of these markets, you could be earning multiple percentage APY or APR in fees on top of what the market's doing, right? So, I mean, I even think traditional markets, wouldn't it be awesome if I could go and trade the Qs, or if I could go and trade, Dow Jones, whatever might be the S&P, and actually earn, pretty risk-free yield on top of this just for holding the position and people trading in and out. Like, that's a pretty big unlock. And when you explain it like that, it's like,
exactly.
It
And
makes
the
sense
thing
to
is,
do this.
imagine when stocks come on chain, imagine when real world assets come on chain, everything can be, plugged in, because everything will have like an LP pool on chain. So all of a sudden you could see mixed, indexes, right? Some stocks, some crypto, some RWA. It's a super powerful primitive that actually rewards holders rather than LPs, or rather than, management or whatever. So,
Yeah, it almost seems like, it's kind of it's a game of time. We're waiting for this stuff to happen. In your eyes, when we look at this protocol, a primitive as a whole, what's the snowball? What's the domino that causes this thing to really blow up and for people to really realize it? I think the index is a great start. Like, when you break that mechanism down, okay, you get to trade the market, the general, whatever the market or basket may be, but also get this yield. Okay, it makes sense. That clicks. Why not? Risk-free yield. But what, in your eyes, is that moment, that domino effect, that snowball effect that gets people rolling and running to this primitive?
Yeah, I think first thing is an incredible user experience, right? Like the current situation's way too technical and complex. Make it really easy to discover, make it really easy to create. That's the incentive of, just discovery and explorability. But then comes obviously the incentive of we need to make the ecosystem needs to make it as easy to, not curate, that's the wrong word, but create versions of indexes so that, okay, this is the snapshot currently, but if I need to say get rid of this asset because it's too much weighting or maybe it's died, in volatility of crypto, then I can create a new version of that index and remove this thing, add this thing. But the cool thing is all of the indexes stay immutable, right? So so by making them immutable, it's not like the actual creator can rug you or like swap something out without you knowing. It's literally here was V1, here's V2, and then the holder can actually swap into it at a click of a button. And I think like that's what the developers are also working on and focused on with the contracts. And then it's really just about how you communicate that on the front end, right? If I hold an index and I go on and I see, oh, just to let you know, as a creator, I've swapped this out and I've put this in. I think this is why, etc., and make it super easy with a click of a button. And that incentivizes creators to want to come in, because then finally, I think the risk right now is that because it's immutable and I can't update it, I'm basically saying, oh, you should use this index as a holder, but all of a sudden my thesis changes on something. So I think that's going to be another big unlock. And the third is just, compatibility, right? Charting infra with defined and DEX screener. They need to be able to, showcase an index token's price, because right now that's broken. Being able to add it into different applications like FOMO and, across the space, etc. But I think that comes as the flywheel comes. I think that's kind of the last parcel of it. But that's the interesting thing. I think there's a lot of really cool builders that are already coming into the ecosystem and getting inspired again to build on chain. So I think we're going to see a lot of stuff, honestly.
I guess that's one thing I wanted to ask you about, just like community wise. I mean, it seems from you look at CT and everyone that talks about it, whether it's in Telegram groups or on the timeline, you see everyone's pretty vocally just, and not even so much talking about price, but just talking about exactly how game changing the technology is. How many developers are you seeing coming back, building on chain for the first time again in a long time? What kind of talent is this attracting?
Reception feedback.
I mean, like there is a community BD team already of like 3 or 4 people who are just constantly outreaching to cool teams in the space. There's like 3 developers who've come on super interested and eager to build on top of the primitives. I mean, the thing is, we're not running Spectrum as like my company. We're based in the EU. We have to be careful with regulations, etc. So that's, we can build the code. Code's no issue, but we can't operate the platform. But some, there's already effectively like teams, rallying around taking up these opportunities. So honestly, it's been insane. That was really the dawning moment for me. Like, because again, I'm just a community member who came in and bought the token, but all of a sudden, like 3 days later, you're seeing, the Uniswap team were interested in just getting to know what this technology is and getting to know what hooks have been, being used for. I think it's inspired a lot of people. I mean, the developer said it himself best, right? Like he hadn't touched on chain in like 5 years. All of a sudden, discovers hooks, gets really hooked, and then builds something. So yeah, it's been crazy.
I mean,
you guys got some great
most...
attention.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going, Joe.
Yeah, no, I think you guys, I mean, yeah, absolutely. You guys have gotten a lot of attention, and I think it speaks the most. I've seen the best projects are typically the ones that can garner this community of people that, and on the timeline, the way it looks is you have these random community members. They're not big KOLs, but they are inspired to do this long write-up, share the thesis with others. But then there's also what you mentioned, a community BD team. People build websites, tooling, developers that's how you can really see that, there's something here because of the feedback that it's getting from the community. So love to see that you guys are working on something big. Ika here in the friend of the show, he says, give us some alpha about give gifts too, please. So I wanted to make sure I get that one up there.
I'm so biased because this is the thing I'm core, like this is my core thing. but like we are genuinely trying to build one of the most fun and engaging internet experiences possible. Like we've had some people go on there like, what the hell is going on? You know, I'm talking, you create a really like custom box you want to send to someone, you add notes, you add photos, you can add like a bomb defusal, you know, game that you have to play in order to open the box and the gift. It goes through a wormhole getting sent off to like the person you want it to go to. You just have to type in an email or a phone number or an X, and all of a sudden you're sending value like over the internet on chain, but in a way that doesn't suck. And I'll give you some alpha on like where I really see this going. Like this is the Trojan horse distribution mechanism for buying and sending any kind of product, retail product. Because where retail shops are going next is X402, MCP, agent protocol commerce, where, you know, you're buying something from Claude and it's, you know, you don't need to go on the shop anymore, right? It's just shopping natively within an agent. But imagine that, what that unlocks for gifting. I can send you a pair of the newest Nike shoes. I don't need to send you money or a gift card. I'm literally sending you the like money underneath for the Nike shoes. You just go on, you customize, I'm a size 10, I want this color. And it literally just, you know, does everything for you in the background. So you're going to be able to natively gift all kinds of stuff. I think the cool thing is in the beginning, you know, it's okay, obviously crypto assets and USDC and euros and digital art. But one thing that's really good for consumer products is you can send Pokemon cards to people. You can send like, you know, a Pokemon pack to rip with another person. We're trying to make it cooperative, a one-to-one experience. If you think about it, like all internet experiences right now are one-to-many because the cost of development was just way too insane. If you buy a Fortnite skin, so many other people are buying Fortnite skins and having the same skin, sorry. But this is actually a one-to-one where you can go in and customize a complete experience just for one single person to benefit. And finally, you can actually build that as a builder with AI. So yeah, I'm so stoked. Honestly, I can't wait. I'm going to send you guys gifts. Don't worry.
Let's go.
We'll get the gift chain going. Yeah, for sure.
Colby, we're at time. Chill. If you have one more thing, maybe squeeze it in here, but we do have to jump.
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, you're more than welcome to come back on the show. I know there's a lot cooking in the background there for Prism, with give gifts and there's so many other things. So as you know, Prism grows, as your product launches, definitely you're more than welcome to come back on the show. But I guess the last thing here to close out the interview, just leave the people with something, you know, anything that either we didn't talk about that perhaps we should have, or even something that, you know, that's coming on the roadmap that you have planned.
Yeah, I think I've busted all my alpha, I guess. I mean, look, we're constantly cooking behind the scenes, you know, at the end of the day. I just want to leave people with hope, actually, if anything. Prices are down, narrative's down bad. But my God, this technology's never been in a better place. I mean, especially with AI, like every day is so exciting because you can literally build what you have in your head. And on-chain rails allow for capital formation and distribution better than anything. I have no doubt that like this technology will underpin every piece of internet technology, right? And it kind of just feels like the whole post 2001 where everyone's doom and gloom, but we're just having a sort of come to reality moment of actually building fundamentals. So that's I won't drop alpha at the end, but I will at least drop a bit of hope, I think.
Colby, I think we can definitely agree with you. We see the doomers coming in full force, especially while the prices are down. You know, as somebody who's watching the ecosystem closely, I've never been more hopeful, of course, for like you mentioned, the financial primitives coming on chain, just the adoption of tokenization. I think I can leave here in agreement with you on the fact that a very easy way to improve all tokens is just making the tokens also represent the underlying liquidity. Like, why isn't that the standard? So, you know, I can see it. I love the vision. It's cool what you're building. And like Chill said, welcome back on the show. Anytime you feel so inclined. So thanks for chatting today.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. And best of luck with the rest of the show.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, Colby.
Right, see you. Bye.
All righty. Very, very cool. Chill. I'll let you get it off your chest, man. What's up?
Dude, that's a crazy piece of technology, man. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, you know, I think it's really important, the community traction that they've seen so far. Obviously, when you have a horde of people interested in a piece of technology, it's often you know, speaks for itself how innovative that technology is. And you know, I'm glad that he was able to give us a kind of look behind the a look behind the under the hood there as far as what they're building. Really awesome.
It's really interesting what these V4 hooks did unlock. Like again, when you kind of look at tokens like they are today, tokenization tokens provide so many different angles and optionality that like just traditional markets really can't. And I think it's really interesting that we have these V4 hooks. We have something like a Prism where now everyone having a position actually gets a claim on that underlying liquidity. Any trade that goes in and out, directly benefits the holders. And so again, like you can invest in a token, you can invest in the upside of a project protocol, whatever. And the more attention and network effects that has directly reflects in the liquidity pools, of course, flowing back to holders. It just seems like the easy solution. And I mean, I guess if you had to ask me, if my optimistic self would say in a year from now, most tokens simply just represent a liquidity position with the token as well, rather than having to go and provide liquidity from outside, capital. But very cool conversation. We are at the time, so we have to jump. We have a really exciting one. We've got Michael Lee coming on from LeanFi. Again, something on the show we talk about constantly is just the emergence we're seeing in traditional markets kind of coming on chain and the benefits that brings. This one's really interesting. RWA, it had its shine about a year or two ago. It never really came to be anything substantial. But that doesn't mean that there's not something serious here. And I think Michael Lee seems to have the background for someone that can bring something very exciting and special on chain here. Really excited to get in LeanFi. This is kind of a world that I'm generally unfamiliar with. Perfect that we're getting Michael on because he seems to have a deep background in it. But the emergence of RWAs on chain is happening. It's happening fast. And, we want to be positioned. So this is going to be a great conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Lee. Welcome, Michael. How are we doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. We appreciate you coming on the show today. LeanFi is one I've been following since launch. I've been trying to get you on. I'm really excited that we got you. It's exciting what you're doing. I'll tell you that much. So do us a favor. Give us a quick background on yourself, because as far as I'm aware, you have a very deep-rooted background in liens and real estate as it is, and you're kind of the guy for the job. So curious to get to know you a bit more.
Yeah, thanks, Dom, and thanks, Chill, for having me on the show. And I know we've been trying for a little while, so glad it worked out. My background, originally from New Jersey. I went to college in New Jersey, finished school in 2008, and moved down to Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where I'm sitting today. So I've been here since 2008, and I moved the summer that I graduated in 2008 because it wasn't the best time to be going to school for finance and then graduating in 2008. It was the global financial crisis. As a kid growing up in New Jersey, I just thought I'd end up working in New York, and that's that, and hopping on the train every day and going down that path. But jobs were not available in 2008 like I thought that they would be after school. So I ended up getting an opportunity to move down to Raleigh, North Carolina for a job, and that job ended up becoming a decade-long career. The start of my career, I became a partner at the firm several years in, and then after a decade, I left to start a firm called Gondola Capital, and that was end of 2018. Formally became official in Q1 of 2019. Gondola Capital. And the idea around that is I spent the first 10 years of my career in traditional alternative investments, so TradFi, but alternative investments, hedge funds, and private equity. And one of the CIOs on an early fund that I worked on, a guy named Mark Yusko, was very early into Bitcoin and things like that. And at first I kind of dismissed it. I didn't really understand it, but then I became very interested in the category. So when I left the firm that I started my career at and left that partnership and started Gondola, the idea was I noticed I saw crypto becoming more of an investable asset class, and the investors that I interfaced with the first decade of my career were all institutional. So institutions like family offices, multifamily office, endowment, foundation, some registered investment advisors or RIAs. So I had a pretty good grasp on institutional allocators after a decade in alternatives, spending time with them. And then I had this passion that I was developing as almost a hobby for crypto. And I wanted to marry the two in some way and take the crypto piece from a hobby to professionalizing it. And that's why I started Gondola. And our first clients were crypto focused, Powerify Capital, very early days with Powerify when they had 3 people and maybe 30 million in assets under management. Powerify is now north of 2 billion. And still a client of Gondola today. We also work with Morgan Creek on Morgan Creek Digital Fund 2, which the GPs on that fund were Mark Yusko, Morgan Creek Digital founder, and then Anthony Pompliano and Jason Williams. So in 2019, 2020, 21, I got this opportunity to really be around people that have been focused on the space, and people like Mark I knew going back to 08, but that's started my career. And then so that Gondola was involved in institutional capital formation with some of the premier asset managers in the crypto space. And so how does that relate into tax liens? It serendipitously kind of happened. And I don't know if I should continue on about how like my background led to tax liens, or if I maybe should just pause for a second.
No, I mean, no, look, you're doing a great job giving us the rundown. I think the credibility is there and it's important. I'd say just keep going, how this kind of transitions into tax liens. And then, that brings us to LeanFi coming around, and, where you went from this traditional market to saying, okay, there is a problem here, and bringing this stuff on chain yields some sort of solution. So I kind of want to get your thesis and ideas around just RWAs coming on chain and tokenization of assets. But I guess generally you were on the right track. Let's just keep going down that with how this kind of ties into
I can make
liens.
this other part brief. I was up in Bethesda, Maryland, meeting with a multifamily office who I knew for some time. We were working on a crypto allocation, and he mentioned that they were allocating to U.S. property tax liens. And after, at this point, almost 12 years in alternatives on the institutional side and multi-strategy as well, I thought that I at least heard of all of the strategies that would encompass alternatives. I didn't realize tax liens were an investable asset class. This multifamily office was using them for the families they serve. And that kind of got me down the road of learning about these instruments. And then that family office was instrumental in the fund's inception and bringing together the people that he was utilizing and working with to basically source liens at the time. And then that led to a fund and a partnership. And now we have over a 5-year track record on that fund, the tax lien fund. That's offered institutionally, accredited investor. And we've got over 100 million in that fund. And the institutions that allocate are, just like I mentioned earlier, so RIAs, family office, multifamily office, endowment, foundation, et cetera. So over a 5-year track record of executing on institutional lien exposure for institutional allocators. And all the while, as this is going on, I saw some of the movements that Dom, you mentioned on the front end, like RWAs, and maybe they tried in some areas and didn't really have like that moment. But I saw this movement happening, and working with Powerify early on, I got to see what Maker kind of was doing with U.S. Treasuries, but it took a while for Treasuries to capture product market fit. And what it took was U.S. dollars to capture product market fit. I mean, that's the ultimate RWA, is the U.S. dollar. And there's there's maybe over 300 billion in U.S. dollars tokenized on chain right now in the form of stable coins. So naturally, when dollars arrive somewhere, dollars seek at least the risk-free rate. So if you have dollars sitting idle, you're typically looking for at least the risk-free rate. So when finally U.S. dollars in the form of stable coins captured product market fit and saw that kind of growth wave, then you saw Treasuries follow. And Treasuries now are past 10 billion. That number's only up and to the right. And then we saw more risk assets like private credit over the last year do really well in terms of growth on chain, and now equities. So moving up the risk spectrum. But somewhere along the way, you have treasuries, private credit, equity moving up the risk spectrum. Somewhere along the way, you have tax liens, which is our specialty, and no one knows about them. And they are more close to treasuries, I'd say, than they are to private credit, just based on the collateral backing that you have when you purchase a tax lien. And maybe that gets into like what actually is a tax lien. Throughout the United States, and every state is different. So when I speak, I kind of speak in generalizations around how tax liens work, and but each state is slightly different and there's nuance. But when a property owner is delinquent on their taxes, the local county or municipality, so property taxes are levied by the local government in which you live. So I'm here in Wake County right now, Raleigh, North Carolina. Wake County is about 1.5% of the assessed value. That's your annual tax bill. And if you don't pay it, they can put a lien on your property. That's how that works. And then the reason that happens is, here in Wake County, the local taxes, county municipality pays for schools, fire, road, anything local. Local governments set budgets, and they have a tax revenue budget. And if that budget isn't fulfilled because people were delinquent, what the local county and government is looking to do is they're looking to not have a budget shortfall. So they don't want interest or penalty. They just want, if we were due $100 in taxes, we want $100. If we only get 90, we have a $10 shortfall. So how do we fill in that shortfall? We take those delinquent taxes and we auction them off to investors. The county or municipality will auction those delinquent taxes off. So let's say that this hypothetical county had $100 budget and 10 houses, each of them $10 tax. One property did not pay those taxes. The county now has $90. They want $100. They'll sell that $10 to investors. And when you go to the auction, in most cases, you're bidding on the interest rate, and the interest rate is statutory, meaning it's set by law, not market driven. So statutory interest rate in like a state like Florida is 18%, New Jersey is 18%. And when you go to the auction, you bid down the interest rate. So if you think about it, the county wants they want the full delinquent, they want their budget fulfilled. So how do you create a market component to allow that investors like us would say, hey, this is interesting. We're willing to give that loan. You get an interest rate on it. So we would go to auction. Bidding starts at 18. Let's say in Florida, you could bid down 1/4 basis point. So I would say 17.5, and Don, you would say 16.25, and Chill would say 14.75, and keep going down. And then the winning bid, that's the face value of that lien now, or the interest rate on that lien. Some states also have penalties that are fixed. So a fixed penalty would mean even if it was a $100 lien and the fixed penalty was 5, and you bid the interest rate to 0. Well, we're not making any money, but in essence, that instrument's worth $105 the day that you purchase it, because there's a fixed 5% penalty. If you have a lien that has both interest and penalty, you'll bid the rate, and let's say you bid the rate to 10%. Now you're accruing 10% through the life of that lien until it's redeemed, and you also have that 5% fixed penalty that's baked in no matter when it's redeemed. So these are, and then finally, these assets, they're backed by the actual property. So if you go out to TikTok and you look up like tax liens, there's a lot of influencers out there that I didn't even know about really until a couple of years ago, because we've trafficked in just on the institutional side. There are a lot of more retail type influencers, and I went to a couple of these sessions to just hear what they talk. And I consistently heard things like tax liens is a great way to acquire property for cheap. And I'm thinking to myself, like 99% of liens redeem. Like they get redeemed with interest penalty. You don't get the property because most properties have mortgages. And if the bank is going to foreclose on a property, the bank has to clear these little lien positions because the lien sits senior to the mortgage. It's a super senior position. So that's why it's not a great way to acquire property for cheap unless you're buying thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of dollars of liens. The average person goes to a New Jersey or Florida auction and buys 200 liens, you're going to get 200 redemptions. You're going to get your money back with interest and penalty. And so institutions allocate to tax liens to generate consistent and predictable income yield and diversification, because these instruments, tax liens themselves, they don't have any correlation to traditional type assets, equity, fixed income, even alternative assets like private credit, aviation financing, collateralized lending. We haven't found any real like strategy or asset that holds correlation to tax liens, because you accrue interest and penalty up until redemption, most redeem, and then you get your return. So saw this happening with treasuries, moving yield on chain, real yield, like real world yield, not reflexive yield and things like that. And I noticed we have this expertise in tax liens. It's kind of right there, and from a risk spectrum standpoint with treasuries, and then other assets have been very successful coming on chain, moving up the risk spectrum, but we kind of backfilled in here. So that's what we're working on.
So Michael, just so I'm understanding this correctly, let me just kind of put a bow on everything. So let's say I'm in your position, and there's a bunch of auctions going on for tax liens. I'm going to go and put bids on specific liens down to a point where it's, as economically viable to where you're going to make money. So let's say I get this lien, I'm making 10% on it. And now what happens is either this lien gets fulfilled, the people pay back the money they owe and the interest on top of that, and boom, you have that risk-free 10%. Or they cannot pay and the property gets foreclosed on, and a piece of that, foreclosure actually goes directly to you guys, since you are senior debt basically on those books. Am I understanding that?
So not making it us specifically, but that's generally how tax liens work. You buy a lien, most of them redeem. If it doesn't redeem, you have a claim on the property. And in each state, it's different how it works. Like in Florida, if the lien doesn't redeem, it's a 2-year redemption period. So basically, you could accrue interest on the lien for 2 years, and then after that 2-year period ends, now in Florida, if you weren't redeemed, you could file for what's called a TDA, which stands for tax deed application. And you file for the tax deed application, this lien wasn't redeemed, and then you could move forward with a sheriff sale. In a state like Texas, which is redeemable tax deeds, much different. Texas is very aggressive, and they would consider Texas non-judicial, meaning you own the instrument, it's a redeemable tax deed. If it's not redeemed, you don't go to court, you don't file for a TDA like in Florida, you own the deed and you could move forward with disposition. So each state's different, but yes, the instruments are backed by the property and sit senior to the mortgage. So most of the time, if you do end up with property in tax liens, they're not properties that you really want. They're properties that have either been like abandoned, they don't have a mortgage on them. It becomes, when you end up with property through tax liens, it becomes a distressed real estate kind of play, which is a far different risk spectrum. It was a far different risk profile than tax liens. So tax liens, upward, very high percentage, most of them redeem within a 3-year time frame. That small percentage that doesn't, you can move forward with property disposition, and then you're entering into a totally different kind of asset. You're in a distressed real estate type asset. And we work through all of those pieces at Gondola. And we're right now, what we've done on chain, what we've brought on chain is this kind of initial stage of the initial tax liens with the yield components, and then building in the on chain and off chain kind of flow. We have a custody service provider that custodies the liens that go on chain, and there's a number of other things that you think about. If a lien can become distressed real estate at some point, could that become something we do on the platform at some point? We'll have to see. We do that off chain, but we have So there are a number of different outside of where we are right now with MVP, a number of different things that number of different products that we can bring with these instruments and these Lego blocks that have been created so far with the infrastructure we've built.
It's good context. There's a lot of nuance to this, and which is, it's good to know you guys have the experience and you're going to handle this. I don't think the everyday person actually even really needs to, get in the weeds, obviously, like you have, to understand the full spectrum. But kind of curious what this aha moment was for you. You see some of these assets coming on chain. Obviously, the rise of stable coins has been extremely prolific. I had a chart even up earlier, which was showing a year ago, there 1% of purpose volume was RWA, and today it's 35%, right? So clearly this is an asset class that's growing largely in commodities. We saw Hyperliquid, I think, do a very good job at bringing illiquid assets on chain. And, we saw this, I think, really proliferate during the Iran conflict when there was lots of volatility in oil markets. And, the best way to trade them and get exposure was through Hyperliquid and the tokenization of these assets. That was long-winded, but all to say, what was your aha moment where you're like, wait a minute, we're doing something that we can largely source decentralized capital on chain, get a bunch of liens, and really make a good business out of this. We're starting to see the early fledglings of it in other markets. Like, what was that light bulb moment for you where it's like, okay, let's take this on chain and make something special out of this?
Yeah, I think bringing real productive assets on chain is going to become like a continued trend. And we had this asset that we've worked on for a long time, and for me, just since 2019. But my partner on the tax lien fund, one of my partners on the tax lien fund, is also a partner on LeanFi, separate entities, and that's Victor Vilmon, and he's the co-CIO of the tax lien fund. He's partner on LeanFi, and Victor's been in the tax lien space for much longer than me. Victor's been working in this space for almost 20 years now. It's over 15. It's probably 17 or 18 years. And in 2015, Victor was awarded a patent on tax lien pricing, tax lien fractionalization. This is before Ethereum was even invented. So he's always kind of had this this tilt there towards, he's worked in the space for a very long time, but also has a technology background as well. So some of the aha moments were, there are 3,000 counties that have individual tax sales. In May, Florida runs their sales. We went to 28 different counties in the month of May for auctions. Every single county reports differently. Every single county has their own kind of repository. And one of the things is, so I mentioned bringing real productive assets on chain. Like that's going to be a trend that's continued. We have the expertise in a really pristine, misunderstood asset that's really difficult to access. Mm-hmm. So to create access to these yield-bearing instruments, we've increased complexity for us off-chain while making it very easy for the on-chain participant to capture yield off of these instruments. So the aha moment, there were, I guess, several along the way. And another one was on the fund business, it took a couple of years, it took a few years to really get the institutional allocators comfortable with tax liens. We're over 100 million now, but a lot of that came in the last 18 months, and the fund has a 5-year track record. So a lot of it came in the last 18 months because it takes time when you have something so new. And now we're talking, on the institutional side, these groups are allocating millions of dollars. Diligence is very thorough. Getting on platforms like Schwab, Fidelity, Pershing, Goldman, which like that stuff all takes time. But once they realize and understood the asset, it's just a beautiful asset to add to a already diversified portfolio. And that whole movement of Wall Street to on chain is obviously kind of happening, and we have one of the most unique assets out there. I think it'll be very difficult to find once we roll out Texas assets as well. Texas assets are very high yielding. I think it'll be hard to find anywhere in DeFi to capture real yield like this that's collateral backed the way it is. I don't think, because in real world traditional finance, I don't know where to find it. So I think we have something very unique here. And Nick Tomeno from One Confirmation, I think it's his pinned tweet. He says competition is for losers. And I always think about that. And in business, you always want to compete, and then if you're playing sports, you want to compete. Think about what Nick's post. It's kind of counterintuitive, and then I think about it with tax liens, competitions for losers. Even if we have such an edge in this space on how the inventory of liens, how we buy them, how we source them, how we buy them, the institutional knowledge that's been built up over a very long period of time, and the complexity. There's 3,000 different places that sell these, run different processes, and And it's what we do every single day with a really great team. So I think the aha moments were this movement is happening, and we have expertise around an asset that is unlike anything, even in TradFi. And then, so obviously you bring it on chain and there's some uniqueness to it.
Yeah, the riches are in the niches, right? That's what they say. Chill, I think you had a question. I'll let you jump in here.
Yeah, earlier you mentioned that there's a lot of institutional money that tends to institutional capital that tends to want to take advantage of the yield in this sector. Like, give us an idea of like how much institutional flows this sector tends to attract.
Yeah, so there are every single year somewhere between 6 to 8 billion in new tax liens sold across the country, across all of the different jurisdictions. So if you think of that as the TAM, most of all of them get sold. Florida auctions in May. I don't have the full numbers. I know what we looked at. We looked at 28 different counties, 1.2 billion worth of face value just in Florida alone, 1 calendar year of taxes. So that Florida was even more than that. That's just what we looked at and brought through our screening. And then at any given time, there's about 25 billion in taxes that are currently delinquent, that aren't like new issue. It could be a lien that's in the second year of delinquency. So that's the outstanding 25 billion in delinquent taxes at any given time. And that would be considered like the secondary market, which we transact in very regularly and have for a long time. So the overall TAM is like, let's say 8 billion a year, 7 billion a year, depending. And then the overall market, that's on new issuance. And then the secondary market outstanding is like 25 billion. The folks ask us on the institutional side, why aren't more of the big guys like playing in this space? It seems like too good to be like, why aren't the big asset managers in the space? And the truth is, if you have an asset that the max supply is 8 billion a year, it's really small. Like and it's too small for like the really big guys to get very excited about it. But for us and to be experts on it and this be an expertise, it's very exciting. We could be very significant to maybe not everyone, but to the folks that find what we're doing as beneficial to them. So that's the size of the market. And then if you think about like when we look at sourcing addressable market, even out of that 1.2 billion that we looked at in Florida for May, our screening process took that down to like 123 million that would even be eligible, that we would even consider bidding. Mm-hmm. So that's 13-ish% of the overall float of what we actually even looked at, that we would even be willing to bid on. And then what do you win out of those bids? It gets kind of truncated. That whole 8 billion wouldn't be our TAM. That's what's out there, but we wouldn't want to buy all 8 billion even if we could.
So Michael, it seems like, you're right, the TAM is generally small. It seems like you could kind of fill up this demand a lot just from the institutional side. What's the thinking behind democratizing this access and making it accessible, on chain for everybody?
Yeah, I think I saw PowerFi, they tokenized a portion of their fund, and a number of other groups are doing that as well. So we're seeing that kind of happen. I think a lot of us right now doing what I do, and folks that are adjacent that have companies similar, we're all facing somewhat of the innovator's dilemma right now, and we're choosing to disrupt ourselves and be innovative about how we approach this asset class. And we think an asset class like this does deserve more access. And so we'll continue to do what we're doing on the institutional side. But I think what we're doing right now in this early stage, it becomes much, if you look back 3 years from now, 5 years from now, it looks much, much different. Our entire business, I think, is disrupted based on the things that we're doing right now, and we're the ones disrupting it and moving in that direction, which is really exciting. So we're kind of dictating it.
Yeah, could you kind of practically walk me through what this looks like? is the platform currently out, or if it's not, what will this look like? How can I get on there and participate in some of this process?
Yeah, so the platform is live right now in early access, and we have over 2,000 folks that have signed up and provided email addresses. We're very, very, very early getting through that list. And if you'd ask me, I would say we're delayed and we're behind. And if you ask the engineers, they'd say we're right on track. And they've told me that my timelines are too aggressive. Many times. I was on a call the other day, and it's so true though. But we started this and we hired the engineering team in August of last year, 2025. And if you would have asked me in October, when's the platform going to launch, I would have told you we're 2 weeks out, maybe like. And then if you'd asked me in November, I would have said 2 weeks out. January, 2 weeks out. I mean, it's forever 2 weeks out. I mean,
The timeline curse.
It was just unbelievable to me, like how the process. I've never been part of like developing an application like this. So my timelines are a little bit aggressive. I got to be a little careful there. But right now it's in early access. We have a small group of folks in there that have purchased liens in real liens in live early access. These are real assets. We've tokenized about $350,000 worth of Florida liens right now.
Nice.
And these early folks that are in there, we're testing all of these flows. So the purchase flow, the redemption flow. So we've had a few redemptions come through, and then we need to settle them from off-chain custody to on-chain. So we're working all of those flows right now. And a couple things as we get closer to really opening up to everyone that signed up for early access, which I cannot wait to do. We have a couple other things. So we're going to be publishing our audit report here any day now. Here I am making these commitments again. Last week I said we'd have our light paper within, I thought it would be last week. We made a somewhat inside baseball, but we made a shift on legal, and actually as of today just signed a new engagement with a group that we're really excited to be working with, and they are exactly what like RWA platform. So there's been a couple little things on the business side that I thought the light paper would have been out last week, but there's just a couple things that we're working through. The platform works right now, and we're kind of hardening all of those processes. But I'd say we're a little bit behind in getting early access out to everyone that's signed up. And again, the engineers are like, Mike, we're right on track. So we're headed in the right direction.
Let's kind of talk about some of the stuff that the tokenization makes extra special. Like, yes, it democratizes access. Anyone can participate. But then you have these DeFi mechanisms that are solely unique to, the tokenization of assets, like looping, like lending and borrowing. Can you talk me through some of the, I guess, mechanisms that you see getting implemented into this process and becoming part of people's average, everyday strategies, like lending, for example?
Yeah, well, I mean, you nailed a couple of the big ones that are off-chain flows that already happen off-chain. So a lot of tax lien investors use leverage on their tax lien book. So, if you're the collateral, you're backed by the property. So they're pretty good assets to a lot of folks lever up. On our fund side, we don't use leverage. We just go pure play. But that is something that I think as you look on chain, it makes much more sense. The complexity of doing lending off chain compared to once we have these assets on chain right now to lend against them is so easy, and it's a great use case for these assets. Borrowing and lending is something that that's something that makes a lot of sense for these assets to borrow and lend against them. It happens off chain, so bringing that on chain in more of a DeFi type setup is certainly something that's on the roadmap.
Based on my understanding, these are pretty secure assets in terms of yield, predictability. When it comes to borrowing, what percentage are you able to borrow against? Let's say I have $100 of liens in assets. I'm not sure what's happening in the traditional markets. But I guess in the traditional markets, if I had $100 of liens on assets, can I borrow $50 against that? Or what is that borrowing rate that I think we can maybe expect, or what do we see today in the traditional markets?
A very high LTV, very high loan to value.
Okay. Is there like, was that like a 60, 70% or
Maybe even
ballpark?
north of that.
Okay. Got
Wow.
you. Got you. 2,000 signups, 350K in testing funds. That's pretty, I mean, that's a great traction early on. How long has this been kind of cooking up? Brewing?
May 7th or 8th, so just about a month.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. Okay, so then tell me this, I guess, as we move into, into the MVP, we have the product out there. Maybe we even open up to some more people. What happens once this becomes successful? People start using it. You have these DeFi mechanisms. Does this platform move away from just tax liens and become all sorts of other alternative assets? And like what is the end goal game plan here?
Yeah, we have some other ideas for the LeanFi platform that will create other assets from these assets as they kind of evolve. And so we've got that. And where are we going with this one again? I'm sorry.
I guess no, you're good. It's just evolution of the platform, right? I mean, we talked about the TAM of liens being relatively small, but we start with liens, we get a lot of users. Where does this go from here?
Yeah. So many different products can be created from these instruments, these Lego blocks that we're putting on chain. So curated vaults is one of the options. Curated vaults is one of the options. Borrowing and lending, additional these liens when they're in their redemption period, it's just simple interest and penalty. But after the redemption period, you're now into a distressed real estate asset. So how we work through that and how we perhaps bring in tokenization around those types of assets as these instruments evolve and change from maybe a claim on delinquent taxes to actual property. There's a lot of legal stuff around that and real estate, but these assets can become real estate. They can morph into that if they don't redeem. And so there are a number of different things. I had someone talk about, you've seen like Pool Together, where folks deposit and they're able to generate, they pick a winner that wins all of the yield. Maybe there's other products that these assets can be kind of incorporated into, but some of the bigger things we're thinking about are borrowing and lending, curated vaults, because right now in MVP, you could go on and buy an individual tax lien in the state of Florida for $500, but maybe you want to make, and if you want to get $50,000 to work, you've got to go and buy a bunch of them. But maybe we'll have curated vaults where you can make a $50,000 allocation to a vault of kind of tranched out assets and make that process a little simpler. But the design of the platform in this early stage MVP was designed to prove the on-chain, off-chain flow, and then also there are some regulatory considerations with how we've launched the MVP as well.
So we've seen that people are willing to pay a premium for access. Tell me about the economics where it comes in for you guys. I think this is going to tie into the token here potentially in a second, but obviously you're bringing this all on chain. You're giving people this access, doing a lot of legwork on the back end. What are the economics looking like for, I guess, you guys, and then maybe the token? How's that all correlate and tied together?
Yeah, so the token is LFI, and the integrations with the platform initially will be ecosystem incentives, activity-based rewards. That's obviously one that I've spoken about. We will have a premium tier of access, which will require a staking mechanism that's being built into the platform. We are introducing other third-party sellers, institutional sellers, giving them access to utilize the platform in kind of a white label standpoint. Those sellers will have the ability to price liens at a discount or a premium. And when there's a premium listing, there'll be a feedback mechanism that will benefit the alignment of the token in the platform, which I think folks will be really excited. I don't want to front run too much of the light paper, which should have been out last week, but I don't want to front run too much of it, but I think that'll add some more color.
Got you. And then could we maybe just touch on the economics? Like, let's say you do issue a tax, or people get tax liens, get access to them. Is there like a basis point fee that you guys take on top
There's
of
a
that?
seller fee on the platform. So institutional seller comes to the platform. That's a seller fee that's taken off of the sale on the seller side, and then on the on-chain buyer side, only at the point of redemption is a share taken of the successful redemption.
Got you. One last question, Chill, and I think I'm generally pretty good. You've covered a lot of bases here, Michael. Who's the target audience here? Are you seeking a more sophisticated investor? Are you seeking just the average retail? You said, people are on TikTok talking about tax liens today. Is that going to be a go-to-market strategy for you guys? Curious who that audience is.
Any on-chain entity or individual that holds USDC that's looking for real-world yield that's backed by property. And then some of these third-party kind of business relationships, some of these even educators in the tax lien space have expressed interest, and will be allowing certain groups, approved sellers, to white label the LeanFi infrastructure with their network. So if you think of some of these educators that fill a hotel with 200 people to tell them about tax, those are their clients typically, and these clients pay them like fees and monthly fee or subscription to get access to the stuff that they're doing. They've never really had a good way to, and these guys typically they'll have inventory that they'll go out and procure to be able to bring to their audience because of some of the complexities around it. So those folks have for a while looked for a way to seamlessly offer their inventory to their audience. So not like the inventory that maybe we have or others bring. So those folks, they're all off-chain. They're not on-chain natives. So we're bringing this on-chain natives, but then we have a group of folks that will white label into our infrastructure with already an existing audience that have no clue what we do over here in the crypto world, and or what CT is, and we'll get uptick there as well.
Man, this has been a really amazing conversation. You've kind of given us a bit of a view and an overview of your side of the world, and it's been interesting to talk about. One of the things that you mentioned was you mentioned the aspect of you choosing to disrupt yourself. You said you'd noticed that there was some sort of shift in the mindset of other institutional players. Can you just like give us a little bit of more detail on that? Is this the beginning of a much larger shift potentially coming, where institutions see this wave of innovation and just choose to get ahead of it themselves?
Yeah. So when I started Gondola, you mentioned on the front end, our first clients crypto focused. So I was going around the country with Mark Yusko, Anthony Pompliano, and calling on large allocators, some of the largest allocators in the country, to talk to them about their crypto exposure. Some of those discussions went really well. Like Mark and his team, they back that fund 2, actually fund 1 as well. I wasn't involved in this deal, so I don't want to take credit for it, make it clear, but Fairfax County Pension Fund was the first pension fund to allocate to a crypto, dedicated crypto fund, and there was Morgan Creek's Blockchain Opportunity Fund 2, which we worked on. And so there were some very early adopters in that 2020 kind of time frame, 2021 on the institutional side, and even going prior to that. But what I found during that time is we're going around the country talking with folks about this. Some folks were very receptive, but that was the minority. The majority was like, "What the heck are you guys talking about?" And so I saw that pushback, and then the same thing with PowerFi. I spent 2 years, a year and a half, going around and introducing what PowerFi was up to and why it was so interesting, and didn't have much success in like that first year and a half, 2 years. But then all of a sudden in late 2022, 2023, everything changed. And these discussions with some of the groups that I've known for a very long time shifted. And I started to see like this shift happening where the allocators on the institutional, they wanted to talk about this asset class. And I think like the Bitcoin ETF was a big catalyst in that. I really do. And a lot of these allocators started to utilize the Bitcoin ETF because now they had their clients calling them and saying, hey, I saw the Bitcoin ETF article in the Wall Street Journal. Should we have exposure to that? And then you have the advisor on the other end of the line. If they didn't know what to say or they didn't know how to explain it, the last thing they want to do is look dumb in front of their clients. So it kind of forced them to learn. And some of these guys that I knew for a very long time that were not anti-crypto, but just indifferent, didn't care, read the Bitcoin white paper because their clients were asking them about Bitcoin during that time period with the ETF being approved. And all of a sudden the advisor like, oh my gosh, this is very interesting. Like, I can't believe I dismissed this for the last decade. Maybe I'm being a little bit hyper, but there were many examples just like that. So I think we've kind of seen in stages institutions being introduced, the passive ETF indexes, which have gotten some good adoption. And now there are a lot of allocators that started there and are allocating to limited partnership hedge funds, private equity vehicles that approach the crypto and blockchain space.
Wow, that's very interesting for that shift to happen in 2022, 2023, because that was like, peak bear market. That was, right after the implosion that happened in our industry. So very, very interesting. I'm glad, appreciate you giving us a bit of insight into that. But I think as far as questions, Dom, I think that takes care of all of mine. Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure. We definitely want to respect your time. If there's anything that perhaps we didn't cover that you'd like to, or if there's anything that you'd like to leave the viewers with, feel free.
Thank you guys, and I appreciate you sharing the time with me today and inviting me on. I don't think there's anything else. One other thing, don't trust my timelines. If you see my timeline, reply and say, what are the engineers saying? And then I'll give you the real answer. No, we're really, really close with a lot of things. So just thankful for the support.
Very good, man.
Absolutely.
We will tune in. Excited to watch it grow. I think it's a very unique concept that you guys are innovating on. So we want to see this be successful. I mean, ultimately, the crux of this show is seeing some of these assets and alternatives come on chain and these RWA markets emerging, and just like, I think we're kind of even seeing this discrepancy between blockchain technology as a whole being extremely valuable and like crypto kind of separating in the negative connotation crypto's had. And so I'm kind of happy to see this separation between, okay, this is a really valuable technology that blockchain is, and it doesn't actually necessarily have to tie into people's personal views on crypto. So really cool stuff. You're definitely in the right field and you're innovating. So we appreciate you, and always happy to have you back on.
Thank you so much.
Talk soon.
Thanks, Michael. Take care.
All righty.
That was pretty insane. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is realizing that, okay, number one, obviously he has an edge in a niche industry, and he's basically saying, hey, look, we're seeing the trend that at some point someone will come for our lunch from the crypto side and bring all these things on chain or create some sort of innovation. I guess, like he was mentioning, many others are seeing that trend and just kind of deciding to, hey, we'll just innovate ourselves and we'll just look into the future ourselves, build something that's a little bit more future proof. And I think tax liens, to have, this is a slept on industry from what
I learned a lot today.
He mentioned. Yeah. From what he mentioned, this is a slept on industry, even on the institutional side. So no one really has the knowledge, the know-how that they do. So they come with a really interesting edge, interesting moat. And I think by the time anyone catches up to what they're building, I think they'd be light years ahead of anyone else.
Yeah, it's definitely the first. It's definitely the first people doing this on chain. So really cool. We had a lot of cool conversations today. So we appreciate you guys, all 1,820 of you guys who have tuned in through either our account, the LeanFi account, Colby's account. We appreciate you tuning in. We do this Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. We have the best founders on. Really fun conversations. We get to learn a lot. We get to see the direction that the markets are heading in. Do us a favor and drop MCG a follow. We're coming back every single day. We appreciate you guys tuning on. And want to, of course, give some appreciation to our sponsors here. Meteor makes this happen. They are a liquidity provision platform, automated market maker on Solana, and then, of course, Trojan, a trading terminal, which you can scan the QR code in the right-hand corner if you want to trade with us on Solana. And of course, Collector Crypt. If you guys like those Pokemon and want to rip some TCG, you can do that there. Very innovative project, really showing off the power of crypto and DeFi in general. Yeah, Jones, agree. I think that what needs to be, I guess, have a little more thought towards, or at least understanding on our end, is I think where the token comes into it, how some of this value can occur back to the token, and I guess the early believers that are holding on to it. So unless Chill, did you get maybe a better grasp on that than I did?
I mean, he basically said wait for the white paper, for the light paper, right? Like he said he doesn't want to front run like all the information that they've they have there. So I think it's that's sort of TBD. But if from what it sounds like, they want to dominate in a big way, and that means checking off like all the boxes, right? Like if you're not only checking off the regulatory side, making sure that lines up, making sure that the platform is user friendly, making sure that what you're offering is safe for investors, still maintaining the institutional side of the business, but then now offering this to on-chain participants. So like they're checking all these boxes. The last box, and they know they need to check this, is token value accrual, right? Like what's the point of it? So I think they know that this is something that they need. And from what it sounds like, it's coming. So I mean, massive protocol.
I mean, high level, he said since starting this like 2 weeks ago, and the engineers are clearly working hard on the back end. Nowadays you can ship so fast with AI. So hopefully it doesn't take too long, but 2,000 signups already, of course, working on that MVP. They have 350K in testing flows that they're using to test out the platform. Or 300K in volume is flowing through it for testing out the platform. They are integrating these DeFi mechanisms where you can do this lending and borrowing. The looping is, I think, the most interesting part to me. If I can earn, 8, 10, 12% yield, that's, safe yield, right? Safe, not risk-free, nothing's risk-free, but low risk yield. And then I can loop that and earn another, if I have $100, take 50, 60, 70% against that, loop it around. I'm making $110 because of my 10%. And now I'm looping another 50% back into it. And I'm making 15% now cumulative. So like that's, you're outpacing the market at this point with your yield in a much more, I think, conservative way. So interesting stuff there. I'll be keeping eyes on it. That was a great conversation. Great background too.
Yep, 100%. So need 1 million LFI. So guys, there's 1,900 of us in here almost. Really appreciate you guys joining us. So basically what we've done so far is we've interviewed 3 people today. We've interviewed the founder, Amrix from Karma. We then interviewed Colby from the Prism community, and lastly Michael from LeanFi. So now that the interviews are over, here's how the rest of the show is going to go. Just in case this is your first time here at MCG, we'll be going through some macro, so breaking news. We'll cover Bitcoin as well as some of the other majors that we're tracking. Kind of give us an overall view of the market, where everything is going. And then we'll work our way on chain. We'll talk about some on-chain alpha that we're digging into. And then we'll talk about any on-chain news or events or things happening. But that will be for the rest of the show. So again, we do this Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Follow us at MCG Live on Twitter, and soon you'll be able to jump into Discord with us. But with that said, let's take a look at Bitcoin and macro.
Markets are green. I'm liking it. Markets are green. My altcoins did not take such a bad hit during this downturn in Bitcoin. And I will say they're, recovering very nicely today. Yeah. Give it a rundown. Chill. I'm going to let you take it from here. I got somewhere to be not too long from now. So boys, I appreciate you as always. Chill. I'm going to catch up with you.
Do it. All right, bro. GG. All right, guys. So real quick to just kind of close out the stream today, we'll touch on the trader segment here. So let's start off with Bitcoin, and let me just let me do this. Increase the size for you guys so you guys can see it a little better. All right, so here's the view on Bitcoin. I'll just start top down, just start kind of high level, because this is sort of what we've been talking about these last couple of months. Shout out Crypto Jones, Matt Alpha on the Discord. A must for anyone who's still in the market. Absolutely. What we're trying to do is literally, if you're here in crypto right now, that means you actually want to be here. That means you're hunting for, some of the, you're here to push the space in a positive direction. You want to trade things that actually mean something. And you want to research, right? Like, it's not just about like this, like mindless, like, oh, like, look at this meme coin or whatever. It's actually like really deep research, really thoughtful analysis on tokens, on the market, and just really good conversation amongst various community members and friends of the show. So absolutely, definitely jump in the Discord. We'll be making that publicly available here really soon. I just have to make one or two last few changes, and then we'll be able to see everyone in Discord. So yeah, looking forward to that. But yeah, Bitcoin. So a few things affecting the Bitcoin price. I mean, earlier this week, the whole rhetoric was more so around Michael Saylor. Is he going to sell? Is he going to buy? Did he already sell? Will he sell more in the future? And I kind of told you guys, I mean, the market is going to come up with whatever it needs to come up with in order to justify different different price action, right? And I think this is one of the best videos that kind of tell us a little bit more about what we're seeing in the market right now. Let me pop this on screen. If you guys follow the not Jerome Powell account, it's actually a pretty funny post. He says, Trump, I'm attacking Iran, I'm not attacking Iran, I'm attacking Iran, I'm not. And this is literally how the markets are right now. So we're all just bouncing from green to red, everyone trying to figure out the next direction, how to process the information that we're getting out of the White House. Obviously, Trump has kind of been known for, just saying something, then walking it back, then saying something, then walking it back. And so it's definitely caused a lot of mayhem in these markets right now. But yeah, I mean, overall, on-chain volume hasn't really been that crazy. We'll talk a little bit more about why that's the case here in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, look, here's the monthly view of the Bitcoin chart. We've been calling out this red box. It's basically the 1 month FVG that acted as resistance for Bitcoin, and this green box down here is basically the target that we've had for months and months and months. Basically, sub 60K is the target. We've tapped it a little bit, but I'm really expecting a little bit more chop here. And perhaps even a move deeper into that green region. Obviously, this is also a pretty bullish OB on the monthly. So if anything, like, this is the region here let's call it between 50K and 65K. This is the area where we would want to look for a bounce, a reversal to happen in the overall direction of the market. So I'm actually looking to see evidence of a bounce. But it's way too early, right? Like, as you can see on the weekly, there was a 2-week FVG here that we rejected off of, and now we're kind of looking to see if we can actually get back to those sub 60K levels as we go down even further here to the 3-day. I think it's just a matter of allowing the market to choose a direction. I'm definitely expecting a little bit of chop here. So whether we make a high and chop before we whether we want to make a higher low, or I'm sorry, a lower high, I would say this sort of red area on the chart would be a place. It's a breaker, so potentially that could be where we decide to reject. We could even reject on this FVG level here. That's also a place that is worth watching. But ultimately, this is kind of where I'm looking for a higher low to form, right? This general area right here. And then overall, again, just expecting us to do a little bit more chopping action over the course of potentially June and July, but we'll see if we even get a head start on some of that chop or potential upside to come after. So that's it on Bitcoin. Not much has changed, in my opinion. It's really, Bitcoin is really doing quite well, if you ask me, just in terms of, kind of fighting some of the FUD. We see that, as we came down to those sub 60K levels last week, Killa XBT here, and I'll pop the tweet up. There we go. So Killa XBT actually outlines that, the Bitcoin RSI levels were reaching new lows. Basically said that we're more oversold than every other cycle. So obviously, we're coming into not saying that this is the bottom. And we talked about this earlier this week. There's no need to time the exact bottom. Rather, you just kind of understand where we're coming into a place in the market where this could be potentially bottoming price action, that perhaps this is just at the beginning of the bottoming phase. But there's no need to time the exact bottom, right? It's just more of identifying, okay, where could price potentially base out? And then what does that mean for me? What does that mean for me and my positioning on chain, right? Like, what does that mean for me and my positioning, depending on where we operate? And, if you're anything like me, as a trader, I trade perps and I trade on chain, right? So I trade my majors with perps, and then I invest on chain. In these bottoming phases now, my question is, where should I be allocating on chain? I think there are a few great protocols on base, right? Like we talked about LeanFi earlier. Seems like a great protocol, something that's worth a potential bid there, and we'll look at that chart in a little bit. But then on Solana as well, noticing the traction with ACE rounds, the crypto AI intersection, noticing those narratives as well come into play. And now's the time to kind of just sit in these projects and really just wait to see what the market decides to do. But that's just some additional context there on Bitcoin, just to say, hey, look, we're coming into an area that is worth looking for reasons to be bullish. And so that's really what I'll be doing in this green box that you see on screen, is just kind of identifying that, is there a reason to be bullish here? Is there something that the chart is showing to say that, we should be looking for a potential reversal? So I'll be paying very, very close attention to the high time frame in the green box here. Okay, so that's Bitcoin, still waiting on some price action to develop, ultimately very close to a bottom. Ethereum, kind of told you guys basically what I thought about Ethereum on earlier this week, but just to kind of show you guys again here, basically we've seen every time Ethereum has reached these lower levels, been a great place to basically just accumulate, right? Just to buy, or at least look for a reason to get long. And so I'll be paying attention to ETH to see, exactly when is a good time to get long here. We see it respecting this high time frame FVG, but that's the look there on Ethereum. Solana looks a little rough, not gonna lie to you. We've kind of had this range form here from starting back in February between, let's call it $75 and $98. We've had this range that we were respecting, and unfortunately, we have not held that range. In fact, we've broken below our high time frame dealing range, and it looks like we want to make another kind of stab lower, but waiting to see what the lower time frames look like. So we'll see here, but for Solana specifically, not the best view. But from an overall, if we're literally just looking at Solana on a monthly, right, we're looking at Solana on a monthly, this is actually the place that you'd want to actually start getting bullish on Solana. We're coming into a 2 month fair value gap. And if we can close the monthly above, call it 66 $66, somewhere around that level. Let me see. Let me just zoom in real quick. Yeah, let's call it $67. If we can get a close above $67 on on Solana in, at the end of this month, then it'll be really bullish. But if not, then we could travel further into this 2 month fair value gap. But again, same thing with Bitcoin. I'm looking for a reason to be bullish. I'm looking for a reason. Call it a liquidity sweep on a high time frame, or what have you. I'm really, really looking. Let me know how you guys think the summer will play out. How are you viewing the summer? Do you think that we're going to chop around? Is it going to be a bullish summer for on chain, or do you plan on just kind of like taking a vacation and giving crypto a bit of a break, or giving yourself a bit of a break? Let me know in the chat what you guys are how you guys are viewing the summer. Oh, you're bullish on chain, Josh? Bet. I'm also bullish on chain. Not very, very bullish. Roman says very bullish. It sounds good, Roman. Yeah, WorldCoin. Actually, WorldCoin looks good. We're going to talk about WorldCoin in a little bit. Josh has been very vocal about Galaxy as well from the beginning of our stream, actually. So yeah, very, very nice there. Very nice. But yes, basically that's the view of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Solana still, out of the three, I still think, Solana is in a really good place. It does look like we could see some more downside if we look on like lower time frames, like the 3-day, with us breaking the lows. But just on this monthly, considering that we're entering this deep area of support, I'm expecting for us to again, bounce. But that bounce will show itself before the bounce shows itself on the 2-month, it will show itself on the daily. So I'm waiting for the lower time frames to tell me it's time to be bullish. And then that will lead to some of these higher time frames, showing the bounce on there. So yeah, waiting for some price action to develop across Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. Right now, I'm pretty much flat perps. Haven't really taken a perps trade in since we crushed the longs over the weekend, last weekend. But yeah, let's look at Hype. I think Hype looks really interesting here. As you can see, there's a lot going on my chart here, but basically there's just a few points of interest. The first is this 1 week breaker here. It's basically just a support and resistance flip. This region acted as an area of resistance here, like right here. It acted as resistance here, right? It acted as resistance here until it finally broke above. And basically, this is now going to be a massive area of support. And I've outlined this sort of 1 week fair value gap, and then this smaller time frame the smaller time frame 3-day fair value gap as well. And to be honest, zooming in is probably the best thing I could have done. We bounced right off that 3-day fair value gap. But just like the others, just like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, I'm kind of waiting to see, a little bit more price action, waiting for a lot more price action to develop, because we just had this SFP form on the 3-day, but we kind of broke below it. And invalidated the SFP. So I just want to kind of wait until some price action develops. Maybe do we perhaps go further into the fair value gap before bouncing. And I have my alert set here for 5150. Because that's where this 1 week breaker starts, and that's where pretty much all of the overlap happens between the fair value gaps and the breakers. All the levels of support kind of converge around this 5150 area. So I'm waiting to see if Hype goes that low, or if it continues to show a ton of strength. So that's Hyperliquid. The next one here is WorldCoin. I've told you guys basically on, the thesis on WorldCoin basically is Hey, we have the OpenAI IPO in October later on this year. I've marked that off on the chart here. And basically, I say all of that to say that people are looking to speculate on the WorldCoin IPO. We've identified the strength that happened. And honestly, like, this chart is not giving much of a pullback. Like, same thing on hype. We had this, like, this higher time frame breaker, and it's just very lightly tapped that area. If we look on the 12-hour, that actually gives us a little better view. It's very lightly tapped that area, but I still have a few alerts set. I want to see if we either sweep some liquidity here at 40 cents, or if we just, it continues to rally. So far, it hasn't really given us much of a pullback. Hasn't really been any like liquidity sweeps or anything like that, or at least not many. It's mainly just kind of reacting off of some of these high time frame levels. Again, this area acted as an area of resistance for price for quite a while, right? Here, here, and even here as well. And so now it's just a support and resistance flip. Now that we've broken above, you see this level acting as support right. Let's see, right here and right here. Right. So we see these, like, this level already acting as a means of support already with the SR flip. So, this could mean that, WorldCoin, just completely continues its outperformance. But I would love to see if perhaps we can at least even sweep this liquidity right here. Here at 42.45, or at the very least sweep some liquidity down here, or at most, I should say, sweep some liquidity down here. Would love to enter the WorldCoin outperformance. That's the two main majors that we've been watching. We've revised this list over the last couple of weeks, coming into into Q2. We've been watching, stuff like Near, Ton, and we still are, right? Like, as you can see, I still have these labeled in green, so we're still watching Ton. But again, like, nothing really. We bounced off of this support and resistance. A lot of things are just turning support, or rather resistance, into support, right? Like we see here, I think I had this already drawn out on this chart. Yeah, you see here and here, this level acted as resistance, and now here it's acting as support. And so I'm waiting to see again if there's I like to enter on liquidity sweeps. But if we don't get one, we can always kind of see again just how price action develops. But when we go down to lower time frames, this move here just kind of looks like it just wants to roll completely over, right? And it's starting to catch this bounce, but I wouldn't be surprised if this just kind of goes lower. And again, I would love to see it sweep some liquidity here to the downside, and then continue the rally upward. That's what I would like to see, but there's just no indication for me to enter along right here. Again, price could go up, but when you're talking about perps, you want to be a little bit more specific, a little bit more surgical on your entry. But from a spot perspective, this is a great place to get into Ton if all you're doing is just kind of trading spot. Okay. There's that. Ondo is another one that we're watching. This one actually, I think it had like a lower time frame liquidity sweep, because let's see here. So as you can see, this also had like some. Let me see. Did I draw this one out on this one? I did not. As you can see, this level here, there's a ton of resistance over here. There's a ton of resistance over here. Let me actually draw this one out real quick. Yeah, so there's a ton of resistance here, here, and then it finally broke out there. So I would love to see if this could, eventually kind of retest this 30-cent level. So I have my alert set for 30 cents, but I'd love to see if I can catch a long on Ondo coming into this support, this resistance support, this SR flip. This acted as resistance. Now I want to see it act as support on Ondo. But honestly, Ondo is one of the stronger charts that we've watched for a little while. So definitely want to see how this plays out. But so far, so good. It's holding its gains very well. We have this. We have our, actually, this would be our higher time frame dealing range here. This would be the dealing range, and I'll put that a little bit on the fib. And then, yeah, like this, the support and resistance, the SR flip would be confluent with the 0.786. And I want to see if there's any liquidity. I want to say there's a liquidity sweep on a lower time frame. Yeah, there's a liquidity sweep here on the 8-hour. And I didn't catch that. I caught that late. So I'm a little bit, I like my R&R to be really tight. So I'd love to, if possible, get an entry here on at like, call it 33.5 cents, and then set my stop at like 32.5 approximately. But yeah, like these two levels here, we'll see if this goes for a liquidity sweep here. But yeah, I mean, again, as far as, perps are concerned, you got to be a little bit more surgical. So I like my R&R to be as tight as possible. So that's Ondo. Still waiting on price action to develop on Near. I think Near will continue to outperform. I know that, the FUD came out alongside Arthur Hayes and a couple other people selling, but still, again, SR flip on this. This acted as support. Acted as resistance here, and even a little bit here before it finally broke through. So now looking for it to act as support on the back end and do a bullish retest of this region, and that would give me a nice SFP. Hopefully, a liquidity sweep here would be nice. I got my alert set for 180 on Near protocol. Another that looks good is Jupe. Another one that I saw a little late. We had this sweep here. It's on the lower side of our dealing range. So we also have this like bullish OB retest here on Jupe. So I actually really like the Jupe setup. I actually have not alerts. I have limit orders set for Jupe, but it just hasn't hit the limit orders yet. So we'll see if I get a chance to enter here. Honestly, I wouldn't even be mad. I wouldn't even mind, a 15-cent entry on this, and then stop at the SFP, which would be about 14 and for about almost 14.5 cents. But yeah, that's the setup. Jupe is probably the one that I'm eyeing for a long on the most. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it on the majors, guys. Couple good setups, couple things that we're waiting on. A lot of things we're waiting on the price action to develop, but a few things that I have limit orders set on. One of the main ones is Jupe, to be honest. And then I have a limit set on Ondo as well. But yeah, there's majors. So I guess now let's go ahead and go on chain. Let's touch on a little bit of what's happening on chain. We see, today the on chain volume is pretty low. Anything on chain you're keeping a close eye on? Absolutely. I'm about to run through a few of them now. Today, crypto market has pretty much been, a little, I don't want to say abysmal. It's just been slow. It's been a slow day. Not a lot happening on chain right now, but I guess that's because of this here. I can't wait to invest my entire life savings in SpaceX at 2 trillion market cap tomorrow. That's really what's been playing out here on chain. A lot of people, I guess, are just kind of waiting to see what are the effects of the SpaceX IPO happening tomorrow. I have a few things on the watch list. Here is my deck screener. Got a few things on the watch list today that we'll be kind of talking a little bit about. But let me see here. There's actually a tweet that I wanted to show you guys that just talked a little bit more about the effect that the SpaceX IPO is going to have on the market. Here is the tweet here. It's by Kobisi Letter, another good follow. But he says the SpaceX IPO has now drawn more than 70 billion worth of retail orders alone. SpaceX is raising 75 billion, making retail interest alone enough to nearly fill the entire sale. To put this in perspective, the previous record IPO was Saudi Aramco in 2020 at nearly 30 billion. This means that retail interest in SpaceX is now 2.5 almost times larger than the total amount raised in the previous largest IPO in history. As a result, SpaceX has announced that 20% of their IPO will be allocated to retail investors. So yeah, obviously, top signals here for the broader TradFi market, but it's going to be interesting to see how that affects what we're doing here on chain. Couple things that I'm very, very interested in at this moment, and I have a few tweets and things that I can share. Yesterday in the Discord, we actually talked a lot about Squire, and I even made a post about Squire here yesterday as well. And maybe I pull that up. Maybe I pull that up real quick so I can show you guys exactly what I was talking about. But Squire looks absolutely fantastic, right? Like Squire looks absolutely fantastic right now. And here's the chart that I posted yesterday. And I actually mentioned Squire in the Discord as well. So I mentioned Squire in the Discord because I saw it coming off of this 0.786 level. If you guys know me, you guys know that I draw out these pivot entries on my charts. So it's with ICT, they use this. It's based on the ICT ideology anyway. But it's the last down candle before an up move, and this up move should be, at least from the on-chain side, it should be something at least that yields 100% of a move, at least, right? Like where it's the last down candle before a powerful move in a token, and that's what I drew out here. I pretty much got that entry that I wanted. And here's the reasons why I was so interested in this region outside of just what I saw on the chart. You have this two-sided inference marketplace. Users can get access to frontier models just by holding the token. The token gives you free access to daily inference on these models. And in case you don't want to use your inference, you can even resell that inference, right? And there's other ways that you can use the token to access some yield generation. So if you're a developer, maybe you have some specialized model, maybe you have some experimental model that you want to basically give people access to, you can then use this use pod AI platform to then rent out your inference, and you can earn a yield on top of that because you receive, I believe it is like 80% of the fees that you generate, and you receive that in USDC. So it's actually real yield generation. And the inference that's available on the marketplace is 40% cheaper than market rates. From the interview that we had with Squire on MCG, he mentioned that his last company was valued at 800 million. He has a deep DeFi background with another platform. I think that's the Elixir platform, if I'm not mistaken. They're also working with Repo, friends of the show, an absolutely cracked protocol. Claw Pump, MoonPay, SeekerPay, Delphi Ventures. And this is what he said on the last interview. The AI marketplace will be larger than any other single market or economy in the world. And that's his view of the TAM of the inference side of the equation. And that's what birthed this inference capital markets kind of thesis that at least I'm kind of interested in, because inference is now a commodity. If inference is something that every person can buy or sell by means of Squire's technology in their marketplace, now inference becomes a commodity because every AI model, every agent, they're all going to need inference and compute. So that's the demand side. So the demand side, addressable market is basically AI models themselves. Any demand for an AI model, for an LLM to use it for anything, is going to result in demand for inference. So the TAM for, demand for use of LLMs is basically, similar to the TAM for inference. Obviously, huge total addressable market. Then, of course, on the supply side, like I mentioned, researchers, developers, builders, they can also rent out their models for 80% fees in USDC. So very, very, very huge market. And just to give you another idea, Chris said on the interview, this is bigger than the cloud compute market. That market is valued at 1 trillion, by the way, and it's set to double by 2030. So definitely that's why, yesterday I kind of gave Squire a shout. And as you can see, it's bouncing pretty well off of that pivot entry based on the fundamentals that we just talked about. And that's what I like to do. I like to, do a little technical analysis so I can be a little bit more surgical with my entries, because I'm seeing that, on chain, you still need to be, a little bit more surgical, a little bit more precise with your entries, because of the advent of, trading terminals. People can set limit orders. And so some levels could be front ran, or levels could be sold off, or what have you. So that's why I have things like fibs, pivot entries, stuff like that. That's why I track these things, because they help me to better assess how can I get into something. Because a lot of the market today is very rotational. So if you found yourself bullish on, Squire, and you bought at like, 4 mil, you'd be down 50% here. Whereas if you just threw a fib on this whole move, you can then say, hey, well, this is where this move originated right here. And, the 0.786 is a great level to buy. If you bought there, you'd be in profit. The 886 is a new level that we've also been talking about recently within these last few months. We've tested it out, and it's proven to be a really good level to buy off of as well. And as you can see, it was a perfect level to buy off of this time around. Now we're actually starting to see a pretty hard bounce from that area. So Squire would be one of the bags that I'm watching on Sol. One that I'm in it as well. Another one to watch, obviously, Opal. We've had them on the stream. I've talked to you guys about Opal countless times. Opal is one that, from an entry standpoint, if you're not in right now, has been a little bit of a tricky one to enter. You really have to be patient with this one, because really the pivot entry technically is down here under 2 mil, but I don't know if we actually make it all the way there, right? Like the golden pocket is still a really good place to buy on any retracement on any asset. So, right here at 2.5 mil is actually not a bad place to start a DCA. We even see on the, so we even see that on the daily, technically the pivot goes up to 2 mil on the daily. So, that could even be a nice little area as well. So yeah, I mean, on Opal, we've talked about, it's behavioral data. It's behavioral data that they're collecting, and then they'll be selling to the AI labs. They're already in talks with a ton of labs. They have a ton of like big names that are bullish on them already, and we've hashed that out. And we've even brought the Opal team on the show. So massive protocol. Yeah, literally same. Crypto Jones. Hard to imagine we don't see a good bounce here on Opal. Absolutely. I think we see something pretty good here on Opal. It's just a matter of figuring out which level is that here, or is that, a little bit lower. But again, not a bad place to get involved right here, even if you're going to be underwater for a little bit. So that's Opal. Great future, obviously Ace Round as well. So another one that a hackathon winner as well that Pump Fund is invested in. So something that again looks pretty good. So that's Squire, that's Opal. Another one is Clued. Clued was in our buy zone, but I kind of told you guys that I want something like sub 1.5 mil. Like I really want this, as close to the mid or bottom part of this buy zone as I can, but it hasn't really been giving us that entry. I'm already in here. My average was at 2 mil or so. But I want to see like a deeper Like I don't have as big of a bag as I want, but this is basically like the memory layer, as the memory layer for basically all of on chain. The metrics were really good. We talked to the team as well. Everything from hallucination rates to efficiency to cost to token usage. All of the metrics are really good, and and beat most benchmarks by a lot. So even this area, again, overall, it's sub 2 mil. So it's, if you're willing to just kind of buy and hold this for the long term, you're probably good, snacking it here in the buy zone. But looking really good on a fundamental side, and also on the TA side as well. Another one I've been watching is Pi. This one also catching a nice little bounce as well, on the day. As you can see, like, this kind of upward movement started, back here in just a couple weeks ago, and it's just been kind of like, up and then consolidate sideways, up, and now it's kind of consolidating sideways. So want to see where the next up move will be. Like, as you can see, there was that range that we had before. It tapped the bottom of the range and then broke out. Same thing here. Now we're tapping the bottom of the range, and hopefully we see that this can actually break out a bit. But I've actually we talked about this on Friday. This is something that this is an LLM that essentially like is comparable to other frontier models. It doesn't beat them in terms of raw intelligence, but it gives comparable levels of output and intelligence versus all of these other frontier models. But it also competes heavily. It's cost effective, right? Like it reduces cost by I think like 4x. It's a 4-bit quantization model, and we did a whole ton of research on last Friday's stream to kind of figure out what that meant. And essentially, it just means that it can provide comparable intelligence for cheaper prices, less token usage, and also faster inference. So you have this LLM that that could appeal to builders or AI researchers that are a little bit more cost conscious. And if they want to do some experimenting, do some building with a model that will give you the outputs comparable to the frontier models, but you don't have to pay as much, that appeals to those types of builders. And we talked about the team as well. Very, very good stuff happening over there at All Pi Core. So I bought a little bit more there. Another one that I was watching was 3. I know that this absolutely blew up. And this move on 3 originated here. The second leg of that move originated right there. And as you can see, after that last down candle right there, and maybe I zoom in a little bit so you guys can see this a little better. But yeah, right at that arrow was that last down move, and then you see this huge move to the upside that we had on 3. And so now we are at the level where the move originated, and it just so happens that this level coincides with the 0.786 as well. There's been a ton of support that's built up around these levels too. As you can see, that support level kind of lines up. So again, I like to combine like fundamental analysis with technical analysis. My thing is I don't get there's so many people that go really, really, really deep with the fundamental side. I just like to do some solid DD on the fundamental side, make sure the metrics are good, the founder has a good background, the technology is innovative, it provides something different. I want to make sure all those things line up, but then also want to see from a TA standpoint as well. I'll make sure that the chart is giving us some sort of entry, and that seems to be the case here right now. We're inside that buy zone, that pivot entry where the last move to all-time highs originated. All right, so there's that. TCG is another one. They announced their ace round, and let me see here. They announced their ace round, and as you can see, like if you go to the 3-day, the pivot entry technically is right here, and we very lightly tapped that area. We very lightly tapped that area. So let's go down to some lower time frames. We very lightly tapped the pivot entry, but honestly, like this is right here. I don't even need like to be so like um um too specific, because I see that right now we've retraced most of the move where we're coming into that point 0.7 or that 0.886 level that we talked about. And this is kind of an area of support that we've established from before. So it's actually like again, like I don't need to hold, these are just lines on a chart, right? Like these are just lines on a chart at the end of the day. So I don't need to be like, you know, um, I don't need to stick to them and to them only. I just need to be in the ballpark, right? I just need to be in the ballpark. And right now, the chart is showing that it doesn't want to go below 3 mil. It's established this area of support. It's reaching a key retracement level. That's typically a great place to buy, and it's coming off of good fundamentals and a good narrative. So I'm actually comfortable with a bid here on TCG as well. And I think that's pretty much it. Not much has developed. Kodak is pretty much in the same place as it was. PayAI is in the same place that it was before. And Karma actually is catching a little bit of a bid as well. This is another one. I forgot to show the chart before the interview, but again, this one has been around for a long time. Here's the pivot entry. It's this is the candle that where this move to new all-time highs, the move to all-time high originated, and we've now retraced that entire move. We even broke below it a little bit there, but we're still in that buy zone. But we are up about 2x on the day. So let's zoom in a little bit here. Let's see exactly like how this started to play out. Yeah, like we just dipped. We just dipped a little bit after our interview to sub 400K, and now it's actually starting to catch a move. So, or starting to catch a bid anyway. He actually shared a few bullish things about the protocol while he was on stream today. So honestly, it is up. Let's call it. Let's see, how much is this up off the bottom? It's up, almost 200% off the bottom, but still in the buy zone. Maybe if you want to be like specific about it, maybe you wait until a pullback to like sub 400K. But obviously we're seeing a lot of people, a lot of willing buyers step into now, control this market. So, or control this, buyers are now in control of this token price. So Karma is another sleeper that I would watch out for based on everything that he mentioned on our interview today. A lot of great things, good catalysts for them coming out. And they started out as a neobank, but they're actually, made a lot of changes to, what exactly they were doing, and how they were approaching their product. So that's Karma. And I'll end on that one. I think those are all pretty much all of the those are all the tickers that I'm watching. Let's real quick before we go to base. Let's go to the rest of Solana real quick. I wanted to first highlight cards. Cards, obviously, this is going to go a lot higher. So, if cards is one of those ones that, you want to make sure you keep an eye on, because if at the very least, if you're not going to invest, this is going to be indicative of good price action for all other TCG coins. And like we just talked about, TCG, the ticker TCG that is in an area of a bid. So that will act as like really good beta on cards as well. And I believe cards is invested in them too. So, I think, as cards goes up, then TCG will also go up as well. So if we're seeing that TCG is in an area of a bid, and we're seeing cards, really catch a bid, I think once we break this all-time high level, I think TCG will likely catch a pump there as well. Cool. So there's that. Cards looking good. What else? Oof. Another one that I talked about yesterday. I tweeted out about this on the timeline. I said, Goblin is a really nice bid here. I really like Goblin. Yes, it's a meme coin technically, but at the end of the day, like, it has this very like crazy nuanced thesis about it. Basically, this is the core of the thesis: the first viral concept spread by LLMs. And Cryptic actually did a really nice write-up about this. He said, it's the idea isn't promoted by humans. It's literally born from LLMs. And the last time something had organically originated from AI was like Goat and Fartcoin, right? And I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm not saying that Goblin is the next Fartcoin. Fartcoin is its own thing. Goblin is its own. At the end of the day, though, that's just to say, like, that's the last thing that came straight from AI, right? And that, we obviously saw how that panned out. Now what we're seeing here is, LLMs are basically spreading this Goblin idea to other LLMs. And it could even get to a point where, they're spreading it also to humans as well. And that's the crux of Cryptic's thesis. Basically says, ChatGPT has 1 billion users, set to be 4 to 5 billion in the next 2 or 3 years. And so, the virality potential here is kind of unmatched, is what he's saying. And he also talks about there are some strong catalysts on the horizon, such as the OpenAI IPO. And he's saying this is discounting other LLMs and their respective teams starting to mention Goblin more and more as well. Because that's kind of my focus of the of my thesis for why I'm interested in Goblin. Of course, that's the core of it, right? The first viral concept spread by LLMs. It's been done before. That did well. It's being done again, so expecting this to do well too. But what I'm also seeing is that Sam Altman and OpenAI execs and ambassadors are already pushing the narrative. OpenAI's IPO is coming up. We took a look at the WorldCoin chart just a few minutes ago. The WorldCoin chart was going up and to the right? Like, it's barely giving us an entry for leverage. And that's because people are looking for exposure to this narrative around OpenAI's IPO later this year. And I think as we get closer and closer to that, there's going to be more attention to not only OpenAI and ChatGPT, but more attention to this particular narrative, because again, it's already being pushed by those people at OpenAI. And actually, let me show you an example. Here's my recent post. About Goblin. Just take a look at some of these pictures, right? OpenAI developers official X account, and they're pushing the Goblin. You see the Goblin there in the middle. You see OpenAI comment the Goblin in the comments. This was just a month ago. You see OpenAI comment the Goblin again on some merch. And as you can see, the merch is Goblin mode, right? And then you see the Goblin there at the bottom. Another example. This is, a sweatshirt that someone ordered from OpenAI. And obviously you see the Goblin branding there as well. And then lastly, you take a look. This is a picture that I stole from Marcel here. But Sam Altman there, he's very aware of the Goblin narrative, right? And like, you see the impressions that these things are getting. And this started in April, and it's continued in May. And then finally, just recently here, we saw that the head of OpenAI going full Goblin mode, Thibault, BRB training on your tweets to power the Goblin personality. And he's a part of the team there at OpenAI, or at least an ambassador, whichever one. But obviously you see that, you know, there's a lot of tailwind here for this type of narrative. And why am I bullish? Is not only because of the attention that this could garner, because at the end of the day, this is what this is. This is an attention trade. But when you look at the chart, you see, bang, what we've been talking about. Pivot entry. Actually, let me pivot entry right here. Pivot entry right here. Bang. So you see the last down candle before an expansive move higher, that led to an all-time high. This is where the move originated, and this ended up being a perfect place to buy. I'm in at about 4 mil, I believe, or something like that. It's my average. Like, I was in the lower, because I was waiting when this first happened, when this chart first when this chart was first reached this region, it lost that level. It lost the pivot entry. But I also saw a falling wedge. And we've been documenting rising and falling wedges on these streams for quite a long time. And so when it broke out of that, you know, when it finally broke out and it retraced, I'm like, all right, this is kind of the entry that I want. And now, you know, it's just going to be a staircase up. And hopefully we see, you know, new all-time highs here soon with this narrative. So that's a little quick breakdown on Goblin, but that's pretty much the only sort of like meme coin that I'm in right now. I guess you can call it a meme. I don't know if you guys have seen Kins? Oh my goodness. All right. So here is the Kins chart. Holy moly. This thing is absolutely insane. So I'm going to look at the 12-hour here. As you can see, this is our pivot entry. It's the, you know, last down candle before a move up that led to, you know, either explosive price action or new all-time highs. And bang, that meets the criteria there. So now the question is, you know, do we actually see that retracement? So as we look at the lower time frames, I mean, that's really what I'm waiting on here on Kins. Is this pullback to sub 2 mil? So let me actually, I'm on these streams by myself. Let me actually get a clip. Going here. We're all going to work on this clip together. Let me see here. 316.35. All right. So here is the thesis on Kins. If you aren't in Kins right now, if you're like me and you're sidelined on this, here's the plan. So we marked out the pivot entry, right? Like, as you can see, the pivot entry here on the 12-hour last down candle before an up move that leads to explosive price action or a new all-time high. That is now the pivot entry. The pivot entry puts us at below 2 mil. So what I'm going to be looking for is an entry below 2 mil. And then if we even were to go and draw a fib on this move, we can even identify this like cluster of buys and sells here as well, right above the 0.786. So I would even venture to say we could potentially do like a DCA1, DCA2 type of situation. Identify how big of a bag you want, split that bag in half, set a limit order for, you know, below 4 mil. I'd actually love like 3.3 mil. And then set another DCA order for 2 mil. I think I'm going to wait for 2 mil, but just kind of giving you guys some context with just other areas of the chart. We're just trying to see where on the chart can we potentially get an entry. So that's the thesis. New all-time high now. This is actually a good D-limb position even. To kind of eye this retracement, but likely there's going to be some FUD or some reason for people to sell, and that's essentially going to give us an entry. Same thing it did for Squire, same thing it could do for us potentially as well. Okay, so that's the idea on Kins. Wait for retracement, eye out some levels, and continue to watch the metrics go crazy. What is Kins? There's actually a few. There's actually a few things to note here with Kins. So here is one tweet. Basically, it's like an on-chain RuneScape. Kintara is a browser MMO on Solana where you earn Kins by actually playing. No snapshot, no waiting. Servers are already queuing. 24-hour volume is 2.7 million. Holders push past 4,700. They actually had some pretty good numbers on this game as well. I believe there's a couple thousand, like 4,000 people playing or something like that. But it's a play to earn game. That's essentially what Kins is. There was a tweet that I saw that kind of gave me some numbers on Kins, and I thought I might have saved that tweet, but unfortunately, I don't think I did. So that's fine. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because it gave us some really good there's someone that gave us some really good numbers on the player activity and everything. So let me see here. Let me see if I can find it for you guys real quick. No. Is this it? No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. But okay. Well, okay. But that's pretty much it. It's a GameFi token. Basically the RuneScape of on-chain. You can gather resources, do quests, you can do PvP. It's like a RuneScape. It's like an on-chain RuneScape, and then there's an in-game marketplace for assets, and then Kins is the main currency for that game. Players can basically pay one Kins into their they need at least one Kins in their wallet to access the game. I believe the number is a little bit different now, but at the end of the day, it's still going to give you access to the game. Oh, here's the numbers. There are currently 237 players online, over 2,000 players active during the past month. So this was obviously some older numbers, though. This was May 28th, so this was like maybe around 2 weeks ago. But those were some numbers. I thought again that I had some recent numbers on this. Apparently, I do not. But that's the Kins breakdown there. Definitely going to keep an eye on the chart. Going to watch for any pullbacks. But at the end of the day, if you guys weren't here like last bear market, things like Friendtech, some other some gambling games, poker, and all this stuff. When in the bear market, when no one really has a anything to do, right? It's a bear market. Tokens aren't going crazy every single day. There aren't many setups. There's a lot of FUD on the timeline. Things are slower. These types of protocols tend to that build something interesting. They tend to pop off. And so that's what we're seeing here with Kins. But those are the entries that I'd be looking for. I don't buy tops. Man, extra. I was really looking for a much deeper pullback on this, but it looks like it doesn't want to go deeper than that level there. But I really wanted to see if I can catch this sub 300K, but it doesn't seem like that's gonna play out. But I'm still gonna wait, see what happens. Let's see what else do we have. I think that's it for Solana. So now we can head over to Base, and we can look at a couple charts there. So first off is RatSpeak. I faded it day one and probably will continue to do so. Yeah, I completely understand. I completely understand that, actually. At the end of the day, I'm not really I don't really know how much legs GameFi has, but I know that we're in a bear market. I know everyone's bored, so maybe they play a game, and maybe this could be the game to play if they can earn something. So that's kind of the interest there. But we'll see if this is a flash in the pan like many others have been, or we'll see if it actually becomes something of itself and maybe perhaps starts a new meta. So that's the Solana ecosystem. Moving on to base, we have RatSpeak here. You guys have heard me talk about RatSpeak already. It's basically sovereign communication, right? Bitcoin made money sovereign. RatSpeak is creating the ability to make communication sovereign. They're also looking this week to integrate AI and LLMs. So now you have fully private and offline communication with your AI agents. This basically allows you to communicate completely offline. No phone numbers, no internet. You can send a message and the signal will bounce off of Bluetooth and radio signals and other signals like Wi-Fi and LoRa signals as well. But it basically like bounces off of these frequencies until it gets to its destination. So that means there's no email, there's no centralized server, there's no phone number, there's nothing. It's just a private mesh network that allows you to communicate completely offline. So really found that to be an interesting protocol, something I haven't seen before, and it's just kind of meandering around, but it's actually like trending higher. Like it's making these moves up. So and it's kind of coming into this sort of area. It's making these moves up. So hopefully at some point this kind of breaks out to the upside. So that's what I'm seeing with RatSpeak. I'm just kind of waiting. A lot of times on base, these moves tend to be a lot slower. So waiting to see, token integration and stuff like that. But, you have a very different demographic of holders on base. You tend to have people that can hold, people that don't fund their own bags. And it's not the please bro situation where, these, founders will just dip. I think in this case, the founder, this is more like this is more akin to the original kind of crypto ethos that the space has. So yeah, I mean, look, these RatSpeak looks really good. The technology looks really good. The developer is is really cracked as well. Ex Aave, ex Kyber network. So yeah, looks really nice here on RatSpeak. So holding well, looking for higher, just holding until that time comes. Repo as well, coming into an area of support. We talked about it, back on the 6th. We actually outlined that this was like coming into an area of support, and there was a lot of there's a lot of information out there about about um, what is that repo. There's I believe they had like an intro to Meta, and like Meta is giving them some extra support, kind of opening some doors for them. The homie PX, he's one of the homies in the Discord as well. He's actually been talking about repo quite a bit lately. And yeah, I mean, look, guys, about this Discord, who's all excited to be in this? If you want to be in the Discord, hit the chat and let me know. Hit the stream chat and let me know if you want to be in the Discord. But the public side of the Discord should be opening up here pretty soon. But as you can see, Orchestra launching tomorrow will massively increase publishing and access fee. Source of signal is still human. Agent scales its expression. Already very strong, unique flywheel. Obviously you have the burns, you have the moat. So good catalyst coming up there that would lead to, more users being able to access the tech. He also says this: do you understand Meta intro to one of their own enterprise partners following presentations from Repo, and Repo subsequently closed the enterprise deal? People spend years building enterprise relationships, reputation, and protect them carefully. They take years to build and it takes years to build and minutes to damage. Reputation and relationship capital aren't spent for free, and neither is time. Getting the opportunity to present, benchmark, evaluate it is big signal. Converting that into an enterprise deal flow, even stronger signal. And I think for me, this is the part, because we've known for a long time. We've had Repo on the show several times. We've been talking about repo since November of last year. And essentially what we're seeing now is the early thesis kind of being proven true, right? Like you have repo, it's the numbers are good. The relock rates they were like 70% and higher for a while, meaning that people not only get paid to vote on the platform, but they would actually relock their repo in order to get access to future voting abilities. So users are coming back. The platform is sticky. The amount of votes, the number of votes is going crazy. The numbers are going ridiculous. The obviously the enterprise deal flow is there. Meta was obviously impressed by their technology, impressed enough to share with a partner of theirs. So absolutely freaking insane work here. For repo. And from a chart perspective, this is coming into an area of support. So again, base projects, the price action tends to move a little slower, but at the end of the day, from a fundamental standpoint, it's still there. No need for no pivot entry or nothing like that. I mean, technically, if you want to say technically, this could be described as a pivot entry, but I find that they work more on Solana than on base. I think for base, all you really need is just support resistance. Is it low? Is it high? And is that the place to buy based on the fundamentals? And right now, we're closer to support than we are resistance, closer to demand than we are supply. And so, really good place to scale into repo here, considering that obviously Meta is impressed by their technology. Another one that I'm watching here is Pod. Actually been watching it since this area here. It's really like this kind of tightening price action here. It just kind of, to me, looks like this wants to break out, because if you hit this with the trend line, you see exactly what I'm talking about. When you hit this with the trend line, you get a sense that, and I wonder, real quick, I wonder something. Nah, can't really be described as a falling wedge like that. Not the cleanest anyway. But when you see that, price is coming up to a trend line, and it's like actually starting to, let's actually go further. Maybe that's two. No, I think the 12-hour actually tells us really well. But when you see price like coming into the trend line and it's starting to consolidate, that means downside is limited. Everyone's buying this, so people are buying it, so price does not want to go lower, and so it leads to pretty explosive price action. So when I noticed that on Pod, I was like, okay. And they're coming off of a great interview with MCG as well. Bunny OS, we had them on yesterday, coming into a nice little area there. I'm debating on getting in. We'll see if I do or not. Lastly, LeanFi is actually looking pretty good. LFI, we just talked about them today. I identified a little bit of a buy zone because obviously they for a while, this did not want to even get to my little buy zone there, but now it's well below. It's broken well below the buy zone. It's starting to bounce off this key area of support and showing a good reaction off of some of these 0.886 and 0.786 levels. So I say all of this to say, if literally your rule as a trader is only to buy off the 0.786 or the 0.886 levels, you'd be able to filter out a ton of these setups. You can literally just get a list of actually, let me just share this with you guys as far as like exactly what I like to do, and perhaps this could be another clip for the MCG Alpha account that you guys definitely should follow. But this is how you can really filter out a lot of the noise. You basically get all of the projects that have great fundamentals, right? There are many of them right now, the Opals, the Squires, the LFIs, the the repos of the world. You can get all of these different projects, and you can perform your fundamental analysis, and that will bring in a cohort of projects. Now, to filter through that cohort is basically just using an entry. You can basically say, hey, look, here are all the projects that I like. There are likely going to be more projects that you like that you can buy. So to filter through which one should I buy now versus which ones I should wait for is which one is undervalued, not in terms of, the rest of the market, right? Like obviously, LFI is undervalued up here when it was at 10 mil compared to where it could go, right? Based on the TAM, but it's not about undervalue versus the TAM. It's about undervalued versus the where price is on the chart. So that's how I'm able to filter through the fundamentals and filter through the different projects that I see. You have, based on fundamental analysis, all these projects that come across your desk, and then you filter, are they undervalued based on where the price is currently today, right? Like obviously up here is not the best place to buy. The best place to buy is not up here at these higher levels near all-time highs. The best place to buy would be down here at undervalued places, and you can only see that based on where your measurement tool, the fibs, are. So if you literally just say, hey, 0.786, 0.886, those are the only places I want to buy tokens in, you can then use your fundamental analysis to get projects on your watch list, and then use the fibs and these different types of entry styles like pivot entries, fib entries, to then say, hey, look, this is where I want to entry. And that's a great way to filter through all of the noise that can be seen on the timeline, at least for now, while we're in the bear market. In a bull market, that kind of changes. Okay, so that's the look there at LFI. What else? I think that's pretty much all of the ones I wanted to cover on base. Crypto Jones, you earlier said that we should look at the Prism chart. We just had Prism on earlier today. This is another one that I've had the fibs drawn out for quite a long time on this. And again, if you have all of these projects that you just get on your radar via fundamental analysis, then the next filter is, hey, like, is it at a deep value zone? And the deep value zones are all the way down here at the 0.786 and the 0.886. So let's do some analysis on this. Oh man, look at that. A nice little pivot entry. I've tested it mostly on Solana, and I need to test it a little bit more on Ethereum. So maybe we see if Prism is the first test. But obviously, last down candle before an up move that led to all-time highs and an explosive move up, right? So we see, this led to a 430% move. And this area here around the 0.786 is where that move originated. So great area, in my opinion, to watch out for, and a great place. And that basically is sub 2 mil market cap. About 1.5, 1.6 mil market cap. Great area that this could potentially come into, and an area that I'll be paying attention to as well. And I'd love to rotate some capital to capture that zone. So that's the analysis there on Prism. Great interview today, actually, and there's a lot of value accrual going back to the token, because everything that's built using Prism is built on top of Prism, right? And so if programmatically 10% of 10% of all the volume that's coming through anything that's built on top of Prism goes back to buying and burn Prism, I mean, that's as good of a value accrual as any, because there's so much that could be built on top of the Prism technology. And we talked about the give gifts protocol that Colby was going to be building. We talked about the index tokens, and I mean, that's just the first couple of use cases. Who knows what else could potentially be happening, or rather, what other use cases could potentially be built on top of this. So yeah, a really great protocol, really nice, really good stuff happening there. All right. So that's really the view on chain. Again, not much happening right now on chain because of everything. The last thing that I did want to share with you guys was in regards to Squire. Um, Something had came across the desk that I wanted to show you guys on Squire. Let's see here. All right, so this is a chart we took a look at it just a moment ago, but one thing that I forgot to share was this tweet. Chris Gilbert, the main engineering mind behind Squire, he highlighted this tweet that basically says, not only are the VVV, the Ask Venice team members following the Squire founder, they're now actually following the Squire bot. Wonder what is coming for inference on Solana. And one thing that we can do as well. I'm gonna actually ask Grok something as well. But obviously there's a connection there. Let me actually ask Grok real quick. What is the connection between and Squire's tech? What is the overlap? Because I want to dig into this a little bit and get a sense of the overlap between Ask Venice and Squire. But obviously, obviously there's great tech being built there. The Ask Venice team is also interested. So definitely something worth paying attention to, and just something I wanted to put on your radar as well. Okay. So that's pretty much it. We're coming up on 3.5 hours of streaming time here. So we're going to go ahead and close out the stream. If there's anything you guys want me to share, if there's anything that you guys want me to talk about, let me know before I go. But there are 3,000. There are not 3,000. I'm sorry. There's almost 2,700. There's almost 2,700 of you guys watching us on stream live right now. I want all of you guys to do me a favor. I want you to go to @MCG Live, click the follow button. We're here Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. We interview all projects. If there are projects that you want us to talk to or talk about, tag us on the timeline. Tag myself, Josh, Dom, tag the MCG Live account. Go if you have a project that you feel like is, super cracked and you feel like it's really building really innovative technology, go to your founder, go to your community and tell them to come on MCG. We have thousands of viewers every single day, just like yourself. So go to MCG Live, hit the follow button, and then I want you to go down and do me a favor. I want you to go down to our pinned tweet here. This is today's stream. I want you guys to hit like, and I want you guys to hit retweet. Okay. There's 2,700 of us almost on this stream. So I want you to go ahead and hit the like and hit the retweet button. Okay. Awesome. So that's pretty much that. Look, I think that kind of closes up the stream here. It's 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Let's actually go to the updated schedule real quick, and I'll show you guys what we have coming up for the show tomorrow. So today we had Karma Wallet on, and it's not just a neobank anymore. They've actually sort of come out with this everything app, and so really great protocol, really great founder. I mean, if you guys were here with us a year ago when we were interviewing him, he was in his apartment with nothing but an air mattress, building out Karma, right? And to go from that to now being revenue positive and generating some really great metrics for themselves, really, really good founder there, and a really good product. After the Karma, we interviewed Prism. We just talked about Prism, innovative technology. Colby he's actually just a community member of Prism. So, but he's also building something on top of Prism as well. Prism is basically a new liquidity primitive. And so Really good stuff there. And then lastly, we interviewed LeanFi with Michael, and absolutely cracked protocol. I mean, Michael's been in the LeanFi or in the tax lien sort of like space for quite a long time. They have they have a lot of edge in terms of knowledge and know-how, and they know the ins and outs of that sector. And so now they're creating a product that's able to give value and yield generating opportunities back to back to the users and back to on-chain participants. So they're democratizing access to these liens, and pretty big TAM. Also seeing a shift in institutional mindset towards crypto and building things on chain. So really great interviews. If you're just joining us, you want to go back and rewind to the beginning of the stream, and you'll get a ton of alpha, because there's some alpha shared on the Karma interview, on the Prism interview, and we even had some stuff being shared from Michael on our final interview as well. Tomorrow we have another great stream with Baseline Markets at 12:30, JTVO. A lot of people calling that the VVV of Solana, so want to dig in. We've had JTVO on before, but I want to see if if they've built anything different. And then we have Sunrise DeFi coming on as well. So really good show for tomorrow lined up as well. And that will be the schedule. And I also want to make this clear. If you guys want to catch any of the segments, we also post those on our YouTube channel. So we do post the full segments on our Twitter, but obviously that gets lost on the timeline. So we have a nice repository available for you guys on our YouTube account. So you want to go to the link in our bio, click on our YouTube, and subscribe to our YouTube channel there, and you'll be able to see all of the interview segments that we do, and even our live streams would be available there as well. All good stuff. All good stuff there. So all set. That's the stream today, guys. Thank you guys so much. Stay tuned for updates on the Discord side. We'll be doing a lot of cool things there, but it's going to start slow and we'll ramp it up slowly but surely. Already have a good group there, and looking forward to include more of you guys, on that side of things. So appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Thank you so much for your support and helping us to, get this far with MCG. There's so much more that we're looking forward to. But outside of that, I'll see you on the timeline, and I'll see you in the Discord. GG's.